like to call this May 28th, 2026 Board of Education regular meeting to order. George, can you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Here.
Mr. Miko?
Here.
Mr. Wall?
Here.
Mrs. Hausum?
Here.
All present.
Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point in the meeting, we do have need to enter into executive session to consider the appointment of a Board of Education member. We will enter into executive session at approximately 6:35, and we will be back out for public session to
We need to
resume.
vote.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
George, can you take the roll?
Yep. Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
What time did you say? 6:35.
This time we will resume public session at 6:40 PM. Under Section C of the agenda, number 1, a resolution to fill Board of Education vacancy. Whereas a vacancy has been caused on the Board of Education by reason of resignation, and whereas this Board of Education has the legal authority to fill a vacancy for the unexpired term thereof, now therefore be it resolved by majority vote of all the remaining members of the Board of Education of the Strongsville City School District that Timothy Helms be and hereby is appointed to serve as a member of the Board of Education of this school district for the unexpired term of May 28th, 2026, ending on December 31st, 2027. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Bissell, second by Mr. Wall. George, can you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'm going to turn it over to George now to do the oath of office.
Congratulations, Mr. Holmes. If you want to meet me at the... Do you solemnly affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Strongsville City School District, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during the continuance of said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to the team, Tim. We're glad to have you here. He is accompanied tonight by his wife and his 3 young boys. 2 that attend Sarar Elementary and 1 that just graduated today from the preschool.
Yes, you did.
All right, yes. Yeah, so welcome. We're glad to have you here. All right. George, does he have an agenda to follow along with?
Oh, I've printed it out. It's there.
Great. Sorry.
It is right there.
Okay.
Just finish this one.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Next on the agenda are strategic priorities. Our district has developed and is currently engaged in a 3-year strategic plan which reflects the values, beliefs, and hopes of our students, staff, parents, and community. There are 4 strategic priorities to the plan: transforming teaching and learning, aligning staff and resources, cultivating culture and climate, and leveraging funding and facilities. Our strategic priorities give actionable focus to our district's purpose and mission and guide the work of our strategic plan. Moving on. Next up, we have public comment. We welcome your comments. However, we do ask that you abide by the guidelines of our policy 0169.1. When your name is called, please stand and state your name, address, and topic. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. If your comment involves a problem with a student, employee, or board member, please do not address them by name. The primary role of the Board of Education is to listen and reflect on your comments. Sometimes board members may respond or ask questions, but not always. Whether we respond or not, your input is very valued. First up, Emily Polo.
I'm Emily Polo. My address is 12676 South Churchill Way, and the topic is turf. So, good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm a student athlete entering my senior year at Strongsville High School. As you may remember, a couple months ago, I was honored to receive a Model Mustang Award from the board for my work with Blood Cancer United and our student fundraising campaign. That experience taught me the importance of leadership, teamwork, and advocating for causes that positively impact students in our community. Tonight, I'm here to advocate for another opportunity that I believe would make a huge difference for current and future student athletes at Strongsville, which is turf for our softball field. One of the biggest problems our softball team faces is weather and field conditions. After it rains, our field takes a long time to dry, especially the outfield, and we end up canceling around 30% of our games because the field's unplayable. That leads to constant rescheduling, packed schedules, and weekend makeup games that affect not only school, work, family time, but other activities too. Turf would make our season much more consistent and let us actually play the games we prepare so hard for. A lot of nearby schools already have turf fields, and it helps keep their programs competitive. When students see their programs being supported, they're more likely to participate and take pride in representing their school. I also understand there are other important needs in the district, especially academically, but supporting softball turf doesn't mean choosing athletics over academics. Both are part of the high school experience. Strongsville has already invested in turf for other sports as a long-term improvement, and softball players put in the same time and effort representing our school, and we're just asking for the same reliable opportunity to practice and compete. I know every decision you make involves balancing many priorities, and I appreciate the time and thought that goes into those decisions. Turf would provide opportunity, consistency, fairness, and support for generations of student athletes to come. I hope you favorably consider our request, and thank you for your time.
Next, we have Emma Hartman.
Hello, my name is Emma Hartman, and my address is 9996 Woodhurst Drive, Strongsville, Ohio. Good evening, members of the Strongsville School Board. My name is Emma Hartman, and I am a proud student at Strongsville High School. I will be entering my senior year this fall. I am a 3-time varsity letter winner on our softball team. My family has been deeply involved in the Strongsville High School baseball and softball programs for years. I have 3 older brothers who have played baseball while they're here at Strongsville High throughout the past 10 years. I stand before you today not just as a student or an athlete, but as someone who truly loves this community. I believe that investing in turf fields and improving our softball and baseball complex is about so much more than just sports. It's about giving us a safe, stable place to grow, to compete, and to represent our school with pride. Right now, our fields are in poor condition. They haven't had major updates since my brothers graduated in 2019 and 2021. I only have 1 year left, but I stand here not just for me, but for all those coming up behind me. Our school has made strides in other sports, especially football, track, tennis, and basketball. And while those programs absolutely deserve updates, we must ensure that all sports, including softball and baseball, have equal access to these vital resources. Every athlete deserves a space that reflects their dedication and dreams. And beyond that, this turf field would be a resource for the entire community. It would bring families together, host events, and give younger kids a place to dream about being part of Strongsville sports. Turf fields would mean more than practice time, fewer cancellations, and a safer place to play. For many years to come, these fields could be a place of pride, teamwork, and excellence. I ask you to see the potential in this investment, not just for our team, but for every student, every sport, and for the entire Strongsville community. Thank you so much for your time and for your commitment to our future.
Next, we have Christopher Kuhar.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Kuhar, 21419 Jonathan Drive, Strongsville, Ohio. I appreciate what the board is having to discuss today. I want to just bring a couple things up because I'm sure you've had people talk to you about the fact that a turf field sounds like a luxury. If you're old like me and you grew up playing on a barely playable dirt field, playing baseball on a turf field sounds like something that is something that these kids don't need. But I wanted to make sure that you all understood the business that's behind baseball and softball in Northeast Ohio. Just within about 20 miles of where you sit, there's probably a half a dozen clubs. Most of these gentlemen have played for Premier, NMC, IVL, Force Ohio, the largest club in the state of Ohio, T3. By the time these boys get to high school, by the time these girls get to high school, their parents have invested thousands and thousands of dollars. And what's happening is many parents are making a decision about where their kids should go to school. And baseball and softball shouldn't be the primary reason, but I know of a half a dozen families who have chosen to not attend Strongsville City Schools, to go to another district and play sports because of the quality of the assets that the program provides for these students. I sat at the graduation last week. I want to say that I'm a parent of a graduated senior, so I don't really benefit from this. But I heard Mr. Wingler say how Strongsville City Schools invest in academics, athletics, and the arts. 2 weeks before that, we played St. Edward's. There was not a single garbage can available at a varsity sporting event. Their bathrooms were not unlocked. And the fields are so bad that I've watched about a half a dozen ground balls literally bounce over infielders, not a bad hop, but literally bounce over their heads. These fields are in terrible shape. They're probably dangerous. It's probably a short amount of time before one of these infielders takes a ground ball in the face. They're in really bad shape. So this is an investment where parents, I don't think that any of those St. Edward's parents are deciding that they made the wrong decision by taking their kids to another school district because of the facilities that we provide for these students. I also want to mention that because this is big business, there is no reason why if you put turf on the softball and baseball fields, that you couldn't rent those fields out every Thursday through Sunday from June to August. Many of these kids, once they get to high school, they're traveling all over Northeast Ohio to play a playable field because they're full-size fields. The school districts in North Royalton and North Ridgeville have both invested in turf fields, and they're generating revenue. They're generating revenue by investing in these fields. So one of the things that I want to just mention to you today is that this is big business. Parents are spending money on it, and they're making decisions based on where these are. Sometimes spending money, sometimes not spending money is not the right decision. It's not the most fiscally responsible decision. Sometimes investing in a program allows you to generate revenue, provide another revenue stream. I'm a public employee. I understand how hard levies are, and I understand the importance of you evaluating the return on investment. But I would like you to encourage you to not just think about this as a luxury, but something that you're investing in to provide a reason for voters to vote yes, instead of worrying about why voters might say no. Thank you.
John Riley.
My name is John Riley. I live at 20418 Colleen Court. So good evening, members of the board and community members. My name is John Riley. I'm a Strongsville High School graduate, husband of a Kinsner teacher, father of a current freshman and fifth grade softball players, and former middle school coach. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm an advocate for the investment in our student athletes, specifically related to the turf project. I want to begin with a simple reality. In northeastern Ohio, spring is unpredictable at best and unplayable at worst. Over the past 9 years, the weather data supports that there's precipitation on 49% of days during the high school season. This isn't an anomaly. This is the norm for spring in northeastern Ohio. When we lose these games, we don't just lose dates on a calendar, we lose developmental time. We create a chaotic environment for parents and for players, and we're forced to move games to other facilities that have turf. It creates an issue with fairness. Of all of the sports that are offered, only a handful are significantly impacted by weather, and among those, softball is the most heavily affected because field conditions matter. A wet gym floor can be cleaned up, a track can still be run on, but a saturated dirt infield means a game is not being played. Meanwhile, other schools in our area have invested in turf. They have arrangements that allow for the use of turf in their communities, or they have planned investments in turf. This creates a competitive imbalance. But beyond competitiveness, this is about something much deeper. We're asking for our athletes to compete at a high level when we're using facilities that have not meaningfully changed in decades. In preparing tonight, I look back at photos from my own playing days at Strongsville nearly 30 years ago. Aside from minor updates, be it to dugouts, bullpens, or scoreboards, little else has changed. The facilities are in very poor condition. Yet the game, the equipment, and the expectations have all evolved. Installing turf fields would not just be an upgrade, it would be a statement that we value these sports, we value girls' athletics, and we prioritize equity across all of our programs. This impact also goes beyond just the high school level. A turf field is a community asset. Youth players gain access to a safe and consistent surface. They develop on the same field that they're hopeful to play on one day. It strengthens the entire pipeline from youth leagues to varsity. I view this and ask the board to view this not as an expense, but as an investment in consistency, competitiveness, and in the community. Let's give our athletes a field that they can count on, and let's give them let's give our community a facility that it can be proud of. And let's make sure that weather does not determine what our athletes can or cannot achieve. Thank you.
Next is Tony Caroselia.
All right, thank you. Tony Caroselia, 17157 Woodshire Drive, Strongsville. Not sure I can say a whole lot more than what has already been said, so a lot, will be reiterated here, but obviously here in support of the turf project. This is not a need, as you've already heard. This is truly a want, based on all the things you've already heard from other speakers. I am the current president of the Strongsville Athletic Boosters, outgoing, but got about another month left. We've been trying to get this project off the ground for a couple of years now. Every time we get some motion, every time we get some traction, it ends up hitting red tape. It's my understanding that this board voted 4-1 yes on this project a while back, and unfortunately slipped back to, I guess, stalled 2-2 at this point. Based on everything else that you've already heard, the facilities are the same almost from when I graduated in 1992. So I think it's long overdue. The money's been allocated, the effort's been put in place, the groundwork's been laid. It's time to move forward. If not now, then when? And that's a direct question to everybody here that makes that decision. If not now, when? I have a daughter that graduated a couple years ago, a son that's a 3-sport athlete, not baseball. When are these kids going to benefit from the effort that they put in, from the effort that the boosters put in, the partnership with Strongsville City Schools, with the athletic department, all the effort that we've made to try to better our facilities, improve the fields, not just baseball, but across the board, to bring Strongsville City Schools in athletics and modernize it. I go to a lot of athletic events, obviously. I take a look at everybody else's facilities, and we are so far behind. So far behind. So I'm asking the board to do the right thing, get this project back on track with a majority yes vote. Thank you.
Amy Laban.
Hi, Amy Laban, 21303 Castlewood Drive. Tony basically took my speech, what I was going to say. I am a mom of baseball and softball players in Strongsville, former SHS softball player myself, and like John said, besides the dugout and the fence, the softball field is exactly the same as it was 30 years ago. So I think we can all agree turf, softball, and baseball fields would be a wonderful addition to the district. We can avoid cancellations, postponements, allow the fields to be used year-round. These fields could even be used by the Marching Mustangs in the summer. They don't have to practice on a hot blacktop parking lot. They can practice in the outfield of a turf field. I do think that now is the time to move ahead with this project. The funding has been allocated for it. The district has proven over and over again it's fiscally responsible. The money for the project would not have been allocated if it was not a good use of funds right now. No additional taxpayer dollars are required to move forward. And both the baseball and softball programs have committed to fundraising to offset some of the costs of this project. As Tony stated, the planning has already begun. The project was given the green light. Significant resources have already been spent on it. Pausing it now could waste those resources, and costs for the project could increase if we wait any longer. I understand the concerns about the optics to the community if we go ahead with this project after having failed levy and bond issues. However, I honestly don't think that delaying this valuable, well-planned improvement is going to sway those voters from a no to a yes for the next levy. I feel like the district has the right to responsibly take care of its own needs at this time. Years from now, I hope the board will be able to point to projects like this as evidence that Strongsville chose to continue moving forward. It's an opportunity to leave behind more than improved athletic facilities. It's an opportunity to leave a legacy of continued belief in the future of Strongsville City Schools. I hope that all members of the board will vote in favor of beginning the next phase of this project. Thank you.
I'm going to try this name, Carl Picario?
Carl Pecoraro, 10437 Kinco Lane. Thank you for the opportunity. Welcome to the board, new member. I'm just here to talk about the turf. I've been a Strongsville resident for 35 years. I've coached sports in Strongsville for 33 of those years. I have coached rec, flag football, rec t-ball, Southern Hills football, SFL football. I was one of the original Strongsville Stallion teams, which I'd love to recreate someday, before, other than Premier or all these other places that somebody said gets all of our money, and they use our fields, and we're not getting those kids to come to Strongsville. It's a scary thing, and we need to fix that. I'm also the proud father of the head coach, and I've worked really hard with that head coach to get this baseball program up and running. I'm so proud of the legacy that he's starting to build. Conference champs 2 out of 3 years, walks in the door. Changed the whole dynamic. These young men are almost all seniors. They have no vested interest in this, but they're here today for their coach. And it's something we should all be proud of. I was involved in the Mike Catan when we built the stadium. I got Key Bank with Mike to be one of the supporters of building that stadium. I worked really hard with Mike. I worked with Kevin Kilbane. I coached his son, Sean, now Judge Kilbane, many, many years ago when he put a boatload of money into that field 20-plus years ago to try to make it a state-of-the-art field. I don't know what happened to it, but it is what it is today. You know, I don't know how we don't have kids that don't rip themselves open with metal off the fencing. I watch those balls. I mean, it gives Hardy, our shortstop, who's done a great job this year, every excuse when a ball goes over his head or through his legs. But it's, when somebody talked about that it's unsafe, it's unsafe. One day my son calls me because he wants to play a game so bad. He's like, Dad, get the pool pump out. And I went up there with my blower and my pool pump, and we're trying to blow water off the field just to play a baseball game in Strongsville, Ohio. It's sad, and it really needs to be fixed. There's more reasons. There's been some great speakers from a business perspective, from a pride perspective, all the reasons why to be a top-notch Division I program. We did it with football. We've done it for lacrosse. We do things for soccer. We do it for a lot of sports, and it's time to do it for baseball, softball, and the multi-purpose. I mean, I've seen the design. My son shares stuff with me all the time, probably too much. But it's such a multi-purpose thing. It's not just baseball. It's not just softball. We've worked really hard to change the direction of this thing. I have raised personally tens of thousands of dollars to help these young men go to Myrtle Beach again, go down there and compete and show off. And the question you get is, who is Strongsville? Who is Strongsville, Ohio? And we are starting to make that mark. We were 4-1 or 5-1 this year. We were 4 or 5-1 last year. We beat great teams from Kentucky and some other places. So outside of Strongsville, we're doing what we got to do to make this program a first-class thing. It's time. We've talked about it. We've worked towards it. I've talked with the AD, you know, to try to help with it, to do the things that we got to get done. I really ask this board for the support to help get that done. Thank you.
Next up is Rick Schultz.
All right. Rick Schultz, 20670 Donegal Lane in Strongsville, here to talk about the turf. Good evening, members of the Board of Education, community members, and by the way, I just wanted to call out the girls earlier. Emily and Emma, you did an awesome job, so thank you for coming. Great job. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Rick Schultz. As I said, I stand up here not just as a parent of 4 going through the district and a community member, but as an alumni, as you've heard earlier from some others, of Strongsville City Schools and someone who deeply cares about the future of our students and the long-term direction of this district. Right now, you have an opportunity in front of you that will impact students and their experience for years and years to come. The baseball and softball fields our student athletes play on today is essentially the same field we played on as an athlete in the mid-1990s when I was at Strongsville High School. Think about that for a moment. We have seen several communities all around us pass us by and be the first to turf fields and make upgrades. There is now a long list, and it grows year after year. Strongsville should be leading from the front, but we are trailing from behind in this regard. Over the last several years, many of us in the community have worked hard to modernize and improve parts of the student-athlete experience. Personally, being on the board of the Athletic Boosters, we've had the privilege to enhance and support the experience of so many students. Whether it be modernizing locker rooms for several sports or upping the amount to cover the cost of admissions for students at sporting events so that they can cheer on their peers for free, which adds to the game day atmosphere and overall school pride. I share those examples because those projects will forever be the legacy of our Athletic Booster Board the last few years, and I'm very proud of that legacy. Because our kids deserve facilities and experiences that reflect the pride that we have in them. Turfing these fields is another step forward, an essential step forward. To those 2 board members that voted to continue the process to have the turf fields out to bid, we sincerely thank you. To those that voted no, you now have another opportunity, especially considering you have your own kids in the district. The significant issues associated with the baseball and softball fields not being turfed are well documented here tonight and for years and years. You've heard from athletes, parents, coaches, athletic department, your own SCS maintenance, and unfortunately, even opposing schools that come to try to play here and witness the poor and embarrassing conditions to play in. It's really a terrible experience for them, but really our own Strongsville kids. Back to the experience. This is really kind of bigger than sports in my regard. This is about opportunity, safety, usability, school pride, and community investment. It's about creating elite facilities that can be used more often by more students in more conditions for more years. So board members, years from now, people will not remember every BOA meeting, every agenda item, or every debate that you all had, or really probably the time that you put in. But they will remember the leaders you had who had the vision and courage to move this district forward. So I ask, what will your legacy be? What will you point to that you directly impacted in positive change and upgrades for the students and athletes of Strongsville? You have a chance to leave a lasting legacy with this project. The community has always taken pride in excellence in academics, arts, and athletics. I think most importantly should be excellence in the student experience. I respectfully ask that members who may still be undecided or no to think beyond today's vote and think about the generations of students who will benefit from this decision long after all of us are gone from those seats and those bleachers. Let's give our student athletes something that they can reflect on of where we are today and not who we were 30 years ago. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
That concludes public comment. Those were all the green slips that I had. All right. So we're going to move on in
Mrs.
the.
Hauser?
Yes.
We have someone else who wanted to address the board.
Not sure how to use this microphone, so if I'm wrong, sorry. My name is Nicole Haney. I grew up here. I grew up in 1982 was when I was born, and I lived in New York City for 17 years. I recently moved back here in 2024, and I like helping others. So it was my idea for the Student Opportunity Fund. I think that all kids should have the same capacity to be able to participate in extracurricular activities. And I think that it's a really innovative program that would be donated by local funds, local communities around here that want to donate for it. And I've also advocated it around to other places surrounding here. I think that each child should have an opportunity to participate. And I also think that the way it's done is going to be discretionary, and it would be basically performed by the principal. And I think it would be an excellent opportunity so that kids that don't have the financial capabilities to have that opportunity in any extracurricular activities. So be it a sport, be it a math club, be it anything. And I think it would be really cool. So I hope that everyone can support that, because for those that don't have the financial capabilities to do it, I think that they deserve the opportunity to participate in it. And it's something that I really believe in, and I hope that you guys have my support on it.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, we are going to move on in the agenda. Now's a good time if anyone has any last-minute homework for one more day of school. If anyone needs to leave, I'll pause. We are going to discuss the turf and baseball, so you are all welcome to stay. But if anyone needs to leave, now's the time. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Agnostu for the treasurer's report.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Hausum, members of the board and the community. This section of the agenda is my report, so I'm going to try and go brief, because that following me on is the turf. I know that's what everyone's here for. So the first item I have is the financial report for the month ending of April 30th, 2026, just to kind of give my usual supplemental report and just kind of highlight the high-level items. Revenues year-to-date are trending about $52,000 higher than the previous year. I'll get more into that, but that's due to a timing difference of homestead and rollback reimbursements that were received in April in comparison to May. Once we close out May and do the May financial report, that will stabilize and will be, revenues will be less than the prior year based on tax collections and the expiration of the renewal levy that came off the books. Expenditures are $3.3 million higher than the previous year, and cash balance currently is $6.5 million less than the previous year. How we're comparing to the forecast, revenues are trending about $1 million less due to the impact of the March tax settlement. They came in under than what we were anticipating due to the timing of the tax bills going out late from the county, which impacted the collections. Expenditures are trending about $50,000 better than the forecast, so the net potential difference is about $1 million in the forecast, and a $95 million budget that's less than 1% or about 1% in comparison. How we're predicted to end the fiscal year. Our fiscal year is going to end at the end of next month. We started the fiscal year with $48 million. We're deficit spending, meaning that we're spending more money than we're bringing in, about $10 million, so we're going to finish the fiscal year about $37 million. Revenues in comparison to, revenues for April in comparison to revenues of April of last year, they're about $3.6 million higher, but if you see the first line, the local and tax reimbursements, that's the homestead and rollback. Last year we received that in May, so it's more or less of a timing difference. year-to-date revenue, it's about $52 million higher. Again, it's due to reimbursements, so add that $3 million into the first line. To look at it side by side, that would be about $3 to $4 million less in comparison to last year once we have an apples-to-apples comparison. State revenue is about $594,000 higher due to the changes from the legislature, and all other revenues is about $394,000 higher, which is due to a one-time reimbursement from the county of about $800,000 for the tax reevaluation system savings that they have, that they gave the money back to the government entities. And then, any questions on revenues before I go into expenditures? No. Month-to-date, or monthly April expenditures compared to last April, about $35,000 difference were higher. Usually these are more or less for timing differences. Revenues or salary and benefits are somewhat consistent, but purchase services and other expenses are more based on, they could fluctuate based as expenses. Invoices come in. Overall, year-to-date expenses, those are about $3.3 million higher. It's about $2.2 million in salaries and benefits, $900,000 in purchase services, and $202,000 in other expenditures. Those combined is for the non-personnel is about $1.1 million, and what makes those higher is our professional services such as nurses, OTs, and PTs are about $100,000 higher. Utilities are about $60,000 higher. Special education outplacements are about $432,000 higher. Other transportation services to get those students to those outplacements are about $225,000 higher. And textbooks for this time of year was about $166,000 higher. So that's where those non-personnel items are higher. And looking how we're trending against the forecast, as I stated, revenues are about $981,000 less. That's mainly due to tax collections. And if you remember, the timing of the forecast now, in the past I would be doing it at this meeting, but due to state legislature, I had to do it in February before the tax collections are due. So kind of estimating those and the way that tax collections were, we were about $1.3 million less. I'm hoping that's more of a timing difference, that we're going to get those dollars that we were anticipating in March. We're going to get them in August, which is going to cross over fiscal years. And then hopefully the August one would be what we're planning on, and it doesn't have that same ripple effect. So we'll have to wait and see on that aspect. State revenues are about $23,000 higher than the forecast. And then all other revenues are trending about $247,000 higher than forecasted. And that's due to the Medicaid reimbursement that we received was about $211,000 that came in this month, and then interest is trending slightly higher as well. And expenditures are about trending about $49,000 less. We'll have next month we'll have May's actuals and then one more month, so we'll have where we finish the year here in the next couple months. That concludes the financial update from April. If there's any questions, and then I can get into the rest of the items I have. No? All right, so moving on. New funds for fiscal year '26. There's two. There's one for the local grant funds, Fund 019-9901, the Strongsville High School Student Opportunity Fund. I do have attached a description to the agenda, and I didn't know she was going to be here tonight, but Ms. Haney came and gave a description of what that is. I know she's been working with Mr. Micko and the high school principal, Mr. Wingler, to kind of create this fund. The idea of it is, as she stated, to create a fund there specifically for the high school to give, to accommodate local donations, to give kids in need or kids that need the opportunity to participate in activities that would have a cost associated with it at the principal's discretion. And then the other fund is our Fund 16, a federal fund, IDA disproportionality funds. This is part of our regular IDA Part B We have to set aside 15% for disproportionality. The state just wanted us to split it into separate fund rather than accounting for it in the current fund. So it's just, no new funds, it's just taking those funds and putting it in a separate cost center. Any questions? Moving on, so item 3, grant approval. There's 2 grants from the Strongsville Education Foundation, $1,000 grant for middle school flower garden, and then another one for $1,175 for a STEM conference for a teacher at Kinsner. 1 budget revision, item 4, for the 014 Strongsville High School AP, ACT, should say AP, ACT, SAT testing fund. That's an increase of about $11,500 for increase in activity. There's a cost for those tests paid by the students, then we get invoiced by the College Board, which we pay for, so it's money in, money out. Item 5, amended appropriation measure to account for the changes for the grant approvals and the budget revisions. Items 6, 7, and 8 are annual insurance renewals for the upcoming fiscal year. Our fiscal year starts July 1. Health insurance is increasing to 6.9%. Our forecast had it as a 5-year average at, our 5-year average was 6%, so it's about 0.9% higher than the 5-year forecast, which equates to about $150,000. Last year, our increase is 1.5%. This year, slightly higher. And we're self-insured, so it's based on our activity. So it's every year we continue to look at that. Dental insurance, 8% increase. Vision insurance has stayed the same as was a 2-year contract. Item 9 is a 3-year renewal for my budget file, which is our budgeting software. There's no price increase there, and the price remained the same for the next 3 years. Item 10 is the preschool tuition, $185 per month. Based on the calculations that we set last year, the tuition rate is staying the same, so there's no change there. Same with full-day kindergarten, no change from this year based on the calculations. It will remain at $2,400 per year, and if there's any refunds based on movement or closures, that'll be refunded at $13.64 per day. And then there's the, if paid in full, $100 reduction. I'm sorry, there's a $50 reduction if paid in full, and then free lunch is $200 reduction, and reduced lunch is $100 reduction. And then the last item is you proving to acknowledge that I've completed the Sunshine Laws Ohio Public Records Training on your behalf. At the organizational meeting, you delegated me to do that on your behalf, so that's completed. And this is just that acknowledgement. So with that, that concludes my report.
Thanks, George. Any questions or comments for George? All right, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Pelko now for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Hausum. Under the superintendent's report, we have one item we're going to start with the baseball and softball discussion. As you know, a few weeks ago, GPD, our architectural firm that has been working with us to look at design and a whole bunch of other things that we have contracted with them, they were here to present the scope of the project. In front of you, just, and it's linked as well, is just a reminder of that scope of the project with all of the items that are included there. And so we were asking the board if there were anything, I just want to remind everyone, as we now have a new board member, that if there was anything within that scope of the project, that was one of the requests, if there was anything that we wanted to take out or reconsider. That was one part of it, and then the other part was just consensus if we were going to go out to bid for the project. And at that time, you know, the vote was 2-2, and so we kind of waited until here we are again to discuss it with a new board member. So due to that also, I've asked Jason Kepler, our athletic director, to come and just do a brief recap of the project, an overview of it, of the scope of it, as well as just talk about our current state of where we are and what our desired state would be. So I'm going to ask Jason to come to the podium and just share briefly, again, for Mr. Helms, the overview of the project. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jenny. Tim, welcome and congratulations. We're happy to have you here. As Mrs. Pelko said, I will be rolling through small parts of our athletic facilities master plan to catch you up to speed on where we're at and some things that we'll be discussing today. A long time ago, not a long time ago, a while ago, our facilities committee identified some areas of need in the athletic department with our athletic facilities. These were some of the areas of need and attention that were identified, and they were given to me to help develop the athletic facilities master plan. As a part of that process, we surveyed many of the athletic department stakeholders to see what's needed, what's wanted, where our priorities might lie, and the next slide here kind of rolls through the results of those surveys. The people that were surveyed were coaches, athletic boosters, youth program board members and members of those programs. Overwhelmingly, the baseball and softball turf came out as the highest priority and the biggest need. Looking at that, there's a lot of numbers that probably don't make a lot of sense. Just know it's like golf. The lower the score here, the better. So as you can see highlighted in green, the lowest scores both on the priority side and the need side were the baseball and softball turf project. So the reason why that was such a need is listed in this the next two slides here. And first and foremost, the negative impact that baseball and softball has throughout their season, playing on a natural surface field that doesn't drain well. We studied 4 or 5 years back how many games were negatively impacted by the current playing conditions, and 19% of their games are impacted by either cancellations or having to flip a home game to away because an away field is in better shape that day. In addition to that, I don't know when the last time any of our baseball or softball teams at the varsity level played an entire season. They're one of the few sports that never get to play an entire season, and that's because they're outdoors playing, for lack of better words, in the mud. And you can't do that in a baseball game or softball game. In addition to that, it helps us maintain excellence with our athletic facilities. The fields need attention, and I'll show you some examples of that in some slides coming up. But right now, 14% of high schools in Northeast Ohio have baseball or softball turf as their main playing field. 14% is not a real high number, but that number grows each and every year. Each and every year you see anywhere from 2, 3 to 4 or 5 schools that turf their field. And a good example of that is when we started the athletic facilities master plan, 11% of schools in Northeast Ohio had turf. And today, 4 more schools have either turfed or started a turf project at their schools, increasing that number to 14. In addition to that, more turf practice space is needed for many of our other programs. And we can use this project to help with that. We've seen a 20% increase in athletic participation since 2017, and some of that is just from bigger rosters. Some of that is from the teams that we've added throughout the course of the department. But all of these programs listed here would directly benefit from the addition of this project. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail later on. Additionally, we can more efficiently manage all of our resources, and specifically to that point, our maintenance staff. They spend many days, the entire day, getting the fields ready for competition, and they might wrap up 2, 3 o'clock only to have it rain again 4 o'clock or after to wipe out all of that day's work because the fields are too muddy to play again. So this would help eliminate days like that and some of the other hours invested into our fields by our maintenance department, from grooming the fields for gameplay, cutting the grass, weed whacking, and doing all of those other things. Additionally, within our current state, this kind of breaks out how this addition would impact our own programs at the high school. Roughly 400 kids would benefit from having this space. And then depending on what we do at the youth level and how much access they're given in the evening, between soccer, football, and lacrosse, that could impact an additional 1,000 to 1,600 kids. And I point that out because with any big project that we do, there's ripple effects and there's things that happen unintentionally. It wasn't too long ago, our city built this beautiful park next to the rec center. It's really one of our crown jewels of our community. However, that also eliminated 3 baseball fields, which many of those youth programs utilize as practice space. So they're left scrambling, trying to find additional practice space. This project would help find them an additional landing spot for their practices. So the next slide here talks about something I had said at the last meeting. I was asked at the last meeting, how many games so far this year have either been canceled or postponed? And I responded with 70-something. And thinking back about that, I think that might sound like, how is that even possible? So I wanted to break that out a little bit more in this slide. And it kind of shows the number of games that have been scheduled, the number of games that have been canceled, and then it also breaks out how many of those were home contests. And when it says canceled, it's canceled and or postponed. So scheduled to play, it has to get moved to another date. So I have a spreadsheet linked here through the QR code or the link that you see on the presentation that has 6 tabs or so. I didn't want to bore you with that, but if you're interested to figure out how these numbers came to be, that information is there for you. So the next handful of slides will show you what our current conditions are. These are our baseball and softball fields. As you can see, there's standing water in many of the areas there. And that's what it looks like many times after a rain shower, especially early on in the spring, which is why we have so many cancellations. We have a lot of cancellations throughout the year, but they come in the highest frequency in the early spring. And because of this, it also forces us to backload the schedule eventually, where teams end up playing 5 or 6 days a week because they're trying to make up as many games as possible, still to only fall short of their complete season. So these are the problem areas on the baseball and softball fields. I have this picture on there. It's kind of funny, it's kind of cute, but it also speaks to a real problem. So when it rains, there's puddles all throughout our infields, and that animal you see in the puddle is a goose. It's funny, it's cute, but it also brings, when you have a lot of geese anywhere, I think we can look in front of the middle school and know like what they bring, and we wouldn't want any of our kids rolling around in the dirt playing in anything that they might leave behind. So having the water on there as much as we do invites a lot of nature. I love the outdoors, and I love animals. However, I'm not sure I want them on the infield. In addition to that, as I mentioned before, our maintenance department sometimes spends an entire day getting a field ready. But sometimes they can spend an entire day to get a field ready, and that's still not enough. So our coaches who also teach in the high school, they often go out on their lunch break to help get the fields ready for that night. So and these are just pictures of some of the coaching staff doing that not too long ago. The next couple of picture slides walks us through some of the structures we have at the complexes. And on the left there, that is a photo of our outfield fence. And there's 2 things going on there. The bottom framing member is rotten in some places, so the windscreens that protect the field often come loose and they flap in the wind, as you see there. In addition to that, in that picture, there is a fence pole pulling out from the ground there, and there's other fence poles like that across the complex there. Picture on the right, you'll see, again, this relates to fencing. The vinyl that was on the fencing is peeling off throughout the complex. And although that doesn't pose a functional problem, it is something that's pretty unsightly. These are pictures of our dugout and the backstop. I do want to point out that there's not money to replace these in the estimate that we have. However, there is money earmarked to freshen up these areas. So I have the picture of the dugout on there. If you look at the steel beam that holds up the roof, you can see that it's rusted. Same thing with the posts that hold up that beam, and then the bottom frame member of the backstop is rusting as well. So this project could also mitigate the rust so there's not any further damage causing potential structural issues down the road. And then the last picture on there, or that I'll show you, is a picture of our band. When I first put the slide together, I AI'd pictures of cars in the parking lot with the band, which is what you see on the left. But I reached out to Mr. King, and he had lots of pictures of kids in the parking lot with cars in the middle of practice. And the reason I bring that up is the band practices in a parking lot for most of their practices throughout the course of a school year, which seems fine. There's a football field painted on there, so they can use that to reference their formations. The issue that we have with that is there's often cars parked in the middle of that field. So no matter what efforts we go through and what lengths we've gone through, we can't get rid of all the cars timely enough so that the band doesn't have to change their formation, work around the cars as they practice. Eventually we get them out, but sometimes it might be half of their practice or even more before we identify who's there and we get them to move their vehicle. So the next couple of slides talk about our desired state. The first one I have up on there is some of the conceptual drawings that GPD provided. And I think the important thing to note here is the field grid that you see in the outfield of baseball. That is the space that would be most utilized by soccer, lacrosse, football to help better their practice situation and benefit those kids. What you see there is a football field painted on the field. We would not have a full football field, soccer field, or lacrosse field permanently painted on the field. What would be there are small little tick marks. That way, it's not unsightly for a baseball game, but teams still know where to set up cones or put temporary paint down to mark out their playing spaces. I've worked with all of those coaching staffs to ensure that this space, I think, as you can see, it's not a full football field. It is 80 to 85 yards with an end zone. That works for all of our teams, and that works for the band. So that is just kind of there conceptually, so you get an idea of how that could be used by some of our other programs. And then the last couple of slides here talk about our desired state a little bit more specifically. Obviously, the first point there talks about how this benefits our baseball and softball programs. It would allow them to complete full seasons and have an equitable number of home games. This project would also transform our athletic complex that needs attention into something that reflects excellence and something that our community can be proud of for a very, very long time to come. As I mentioned before, the band could shift all of their practices that are in the parking lot to there. It also addresses that issue of the greater need of athletic facilities with the increase of athletic participation throughout the department. As mentioned before, it's a 20% increase since 2017. I think that number is higher if we had the ability to look back at old rosters beyond 2017, but all we have right now is back to that date. Soccer right now, they have 6 teams when you consider all the levels, freshman through varsity. that practice on 2 fields at the same time. So this would allow them more space to spread out and use the fields more efficiently. Lacrosse often has practices until 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night while in season. This could allow the last lacrosse team that practices to start earlier and get the kids home earlier. That way they can have a proper meal with their families, have that family time, and then finish their homework. And just a couple last points. Freshman football now practices in grass. They would have a turf space they could practice in. I mentioned the number of kids that could be impacted at the youth levels. I know they're not our high school students, but I would venture to guess 90 to 95% of those kids are Strongsville kids. And then one of the parents mentioned this earlier, but there could be some significant revenue opportunities to host baseball and softball tournaments throughout the summer. And the last slide, I will discuss some of the investment and some of the resources invested already. The project cost or the project estimate is $3.3 to $3.4 million. Last meeting, we discussed some things that could be cut out of that budget to help reduce cost. I think we settled, there was maybe 100 or so thousand that could be trimmed out of there. But 3.3 to 3.4 is the number. Additionally, we've talked with our baseball and softball communities at a very surface level about aggressive fundraising, and we're pretty confident that with all of our families combined, we can raise probably $500,000, maybe more than that. And then additionally, I know because we're such a large district, it's hard to know like all the details and what impact and what's been invested in this project already. So I felt important to share some of that information. So between meetings, touring of other turf complexes, presentations and research going into the project, just myself, I've invested, I put 200, but it's significantly more than that if I'm being honest. And then that's not including all the other committee members that we've had and the other people that have helped push this project forward. And then there has been some money invested already in the design and engineering of this complex, and that is roughly $112,000 so far. And that is all I had for everybody. Are there any questions?
Got some questions, appreciate the presentation.
Sure.
Hopefully, with my first meeting, people could put a seatbelt on me so I don't ask too many questions here. I guess going back to be slide number 3 with the scoring, just for my general understanding, how do we come up with that scoring for the heat map?
Sure. This slide up here?
Yeah.
Okay. So really, we started with the rankings. We asked the community to rank what is the top priority here. So if it got ranked a 1, we gave it a score of 1. If it got ranked a 4 or 5, it got a score of 4 or 5. So we used that to keep it, in my head it was simple, but presenting it to you guys, it might have hit a little different if the higher number was better, but it was based on where they ranked, and the lower the score, the higher the rank, if that makes sense, and that's
So that's like a number of people that essentially voted in terms of those
No,
areas?
no, there were considerably more people than that. I'll share the entire master plan with you so you get a better idea, because more information was included with that to spell out who filled out the survey and how we came up with the scores, and it just gives you the broader picture of this information.
Okay, and then we're looking left to right in terms of the heat map of what's highest priority versus what's really not on the radar.
Correct.
As of right now? Gotcha.
Correct.
For other schools that have done this type of project for baseball and softball, I assume there's probably some locally that we've seen and kind of try to model after. Have we gotten feedback from them in terms of what positives? Obviously, we'll probably hear all the positives, but maybe also what the negatives are of doing something like this?
Yeah, so the one negative that I got from a couple different schools who chose to turf infield only is that is a huge lift to, number one, manage who's wearing the right cleats out there. Grass, you can wear metal, turf, you can't. So that's a huge issue. And then with doing an infield-only project, there's the grass clippings and the dirt that get blown onto the turf that need to get cleaned up before each and every game. So that was one negative. There was not a whole lot of issues presented by the ADs I spoke to. And at the end of this presentation, there's this graphic up here that shows all of those schools that have turf, and whether or not it's infield or all of it. And just where you see the orange schools listed, those are the 4 that have turfed or started turf after we started the project back in August.
Gotcha. And you and the team are proposing a full turf field, not a partial?
Correct.
Both softball and baseball?
Correct, yes.
And this is not the first time that we brought this up during one of these meetings?
I've heard it's been discussed for 20 years, so.
It was definitely being discussed when my kids were in school, and
Yeah.
they graduated 18, 20, and 22.
And maybe just a thought, if this does proceed, have we thought about having local businesses as part of the implementation of this? So that way we're giving back into the community as opposed to going to outside contractors that have no association with what we're doing here?
Absolutely, they'd be big partners of ours.
Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Oh, go ahead, Jenny.
No, I don't
No.
have a question. I just didn't know if there was other questions.
Other questions or comments?
Can you talk more about, I'm concerned about the dugouts and that we're not going to renovate them. Is that going to haunt us?
So in the estimate, I believe
Yeah.
there was about 100,000 earmarked between baseball and softball to renovate the dugout, not replace, so do things like roofing, mitigate the rust, tuck point some of the masonry that's on there to freshen it up, and things of that nature. There is some, I'm not going to call it a direct part of the dugout, but on the home dugout, there's a little bit of an extension for storage. That way the baseball and softball teams have a place to put their stuff, so they don't have to carry it in and out of the building so much.
So with the elementary school buildings, we use that barometer of 67%. If the cost of renovating is 67% of the cost of replacing, you may as well replace. Is there any consideration for that with the dugouts?
We can get a price. I think it all depends on how much it would be to do that.
Okay.
But that we can have that conversation, certainly.
I think we could circle back to GPD and kind of get what their
Yeah.
over-under
Yeah,
is on that.
I
yeah.
don't want to unnecessarily replace them. I
Right.
don't want to find out that when we do replace them and we only renovate them, we come back and say, gosh, we should have replaced them.
Sure, absolutely.
Another question. Timing of something like this, how long does a project like this with all the breakdowns take to complete?
So,
And when would you want to complete it?
so our hope would be spring of '27, so next baseball season, if things were to move forward at a pretty quick pace. We've discussed this throughout the school year. We were on pace for that. So if we continue in the not too distant future, we could still do spring of '27 easily.
I have two questions. Have you, I know you've researched a number of things, I'm wondering if you've researched this at all. Do we have like a dollar amount on what we're investing in terms of our employees who are spending days at a time working on the fields? Whether you play or not play, that time's invested in a field that is causing us trouble. Do we have any, a price tag on that labor?
So we So we started, way back, this was a couple of years ago, we started looking into that, but because they're maintenance members and they sometimes get called off of a field and then come back, it's, in terms of employee hours invested and the time that they're there versus maybe somewhere else, it's impossible for us to tell. We can easily get what's invested in turfus and drying agent and things of that nature, but the man hours that go into it, it's pretty complicated.
Okay, and what about numbers? I know we sometimes make games away games. Do we have numbers on what does it cost, the driver, fuel, those kind of things that were not planned for?
So I don't have specific costs, but I can share this. Number one, it depends on how far the trip might be because of fuel, mileage, driver hours. But it also, when I knew this was 4 years ago, we had a club volleyball team that fundraised for their own busing to go to away games. And if I remember correctly, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $400-ish, maybe approaching $5 for each trip that they took.
I think what also it does do on our transportation department when we're trying to, depending on the time of the game, having to adjust things and switch things around. Obviously, our priority is always to get our elementary kids home first, but that could potentially, I'd have to look at the days and get with transportation, but could potentially run risks of them arriving late to the games. They're going to play, but, we have to work with that other team. And then, always looking for field trips is a struggle. Just on our fleet alone, depending on absences and things like that. So I could get direct numbers from that of how often that occurred and what that cost was, and, both in time and just frustration. Thank you. So if there are no other questions, Ms. Hausum, first of all, thank you, Jason. Thank you for putting this together again and coming back again. I just think it's good to, the meeting we had with GPD was almost a month ago, and so, maybe not a month ago, but it seems like a month ago.
It's the end of the year.
There's a lot
Everything
going
seems like
on,
a
yes,
blur.
there's a lot going on. But it was a little bit of time ago, and so it's always good to kind of refresh. And, one thing that I just want to, again, reiterate to the board is that the money that has already invested, so we have a contract with GPD right now. I think it's around $200,000 to look at the scope of the project, and there's layers in it of steps. And so as Jason shared, we're already invested about $112,000. To go to bid, I believe that cost is another $10,000 that would be added into that part. So again, it is a cost if we continue to move forward, so I just want you to be aware of that. But
It is part of the $200,000.
Correct,
It's
yeah.
not anything more than that.
Correct.
It's part of the makeup.
Yeah, it's part of that money, right. So, again, what we're looking for is, and you asked Mr. Helms about the timing of it. The one thing that I would consider is that if we want it to be ready by 2027, of spring 2027, there are also parts where we have to get permits with the city, we have to go through all of those things, and sometimes that takes additional time. So, again, looking for consensus to move forward with the bidding. And that would be the next step. That would cost the $10,000. But eventually, those bids would come back to the board, and you would vote on whether you accept that bid or not, which would become, again, we'd have to look at timing-wise, but I don't know how long it takes to go out to bid and all of that, but probably in the next month or so to vote on that. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mrs. Hausum, for discussion.
Comments? I mean, I can start. I have not changed my stance. I would like to move forward with it and go out to bid. I feel like we're touching a lot of kids' lives by doing this. It's a positive for our community. I think we need a win.
Just a little bit of recognition, just want to say nice job to everybody that came in today. Obviously, students, you guys did an excellent job. Just want to say thank you and appreciate the efforts and the passion. I think a lot of us have passion for the city, and you guys definitely displayed that today, so appreciate that.
You know, a week ago, almost to the hour, I sat on the dais and got to shake hands of all of the young people who are graduating. Talk about something that's sort of transformative. We're seeing all of these young people really reach this kind of amazing milestone. And we're launching them as citizens and the people of Strongsville into the world. And it's kind of amazing. And someone had pointed it out, and Mr. Wingler did say academics, but in the same breath, without a pause, he did say athletics and arts. And those principles is what makes a Mustang. And as if to underscore it, he goes on to talk about, please stand up and be recognized. And we went through, if you haven't seen it, we go through this huge list of every success that those seniors have. And it's amazing. And it does cover the arts, and it covers music, and of course it covers athletics, and of course we're there because of the academic achievements we achieve. But it made me wonder what it means to be a Mustang. And who's the keeper of the vision of what a Mustang is? And I think it's us. I think it goes back generations. And somewhere, generations ago, someone decided that academics, athletics, and arts is what it takes. That's what we put out into the world. Those are the values that we carry as a community. And so not every vote we get to make up here kind of touches on values, but this one does. And for me, it's important and trusted by the community to renew our obligations and to keep that vision of what makes a Mustang a Mustang. And so for me, that'll be a yes, 100% yes. And I hope that we continue to be Mustang first in our approach to thinking.
You want me to go?
No, I will. I just want to address those of you who are here tonight. I just want to say thank you. It's our job as elected officials to represent the people. And the best way that I can do that is by hearing from the people. And people don't take opportunity to address us all that often. So I appreciate this sports community for showing up. And for the students who are learning how to advocate in this community, kudos to you. For the parents who are here with students who have already graduated, kudos to you. We have an amazing sports program here in Strongsville. I have kids who are part of it. And it's a privilege to be able to sit here and listen to you talk about your passions and how important this is to the district and to this community. Anytime we have feedback, especially in large quantities, I think it is our duty to take that seriously. And so my perspective today is I want to take time to digest this. We've only had this happen, I've been here 6.5 years, maybe 3 times, maybe 4. And I want to make sure that I've considered all angles, every angle. There was some new information here tonight that you guys shared with me that I didn't know. Things about, 30 years ago, for example. So I appreciate you bringing those to my attention. And I also just want to encourage you. The reason that I like that you're here tonight is that I'm getting to hear it firsthand. Sometimes I get feedback, and it's filtered through other people, other administrators, other board members, Facebook. The best way for me to make my decision is to hear from you directly. So I'm just going to encourage any of you here, or if you have others, that if we do pause tonight, and I don't know if that's going to be, if we choose not to move forward with the consensus and wait to talk about it in 2 weeks, that's my suggestion, so I can process and do due diligence for you all, is to reach out directly. I'm here to hear from you. I want to hear from you. And that goes for anyone listening at home as well who has feedback on this topic. I'd love to hear from you. Please call, send an email. I would like to hear more. Thank you.
So I'll just, I want to do this. And I think everyone who's been paying attention knows that I have heartburn about it. It's not a question of if we should do it for me, it's a question of when we should do it for me. I listened to everybody, and what resonated with me is everything that everyone said at public comment applies to the elementary schools. It's a long-term investment. It's what we should do. It's the right thing to do for the students, for the young people in our community. You know, I wish I kept score, because every comment you could apply to that same consideration. So it's, you know, I don't brook any questions. I'm interested in trying to quantify the potential to generate income, because that helps offset the cost, right? I would look at it cynically. I don't think North Royalton is doing that to a tremendous amount, but we should investigate it and see what those real dollars are. But for me, again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and it's a matter of the proper order, and it's a $3.5 million ask. And based on the conversation we're going to have in the next 15 minutes, it sobers me to the point where, you know, for me, the best course of action is to pause and get a holistic view of all our finances. And when that holistic view is understood and dealt with the community, then we can say now is the time. But I don't want it to be, I don't want anyone to leave thinking I'm not supportive of it. I'm supportive of the program. I'm supportive of the time and the activity and the opportunity for our students. But again, in a vacuum, it's really easy to look at it and understand it and say we should do it right now. But when you look at it holistically with all of our other expenses, my vote is to hold off.
So I guess it comes to me with, obviously I gave some recognition, wanted to make sure that was clear. Being up here for an hour and a half, just trying to understand the logistics of everything and knowing which way is up. At this point, it's difficult, but the concern I have is it was 4-to-1 years ago from, something that somebody explained, 2-to-2 years ago. My concern is I don't like getting to the goal line. I want to score touchdowns. So how do we get this across the goal line and make this a reality? I don't want to be the red tape that calls a running play when you want to score a touchdown. So with that, I'll vote yes today.
All right, I want to thank everybody. Again, thank you guys for being here. We are going to move on with the agenda, so if anyone, Jason, do you want to add something?
I would like to throw a plug in and ask the community to turn out Friday night or Friday late afternoon to North Ridgeville. The fellows over here are playing in a big district final baseball game. And we would love to see you. I often bribe students with donuts to do some real big things. I will have 24 donuts for any students that show up in the student section, and I will gladly give those to you. So, thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Good luck, boys.
Just really quickly, I just want to say thank you to you guys. This is great opportunity for all the kids, especially the kids coming up in our schools and our programs. It's really going to pay off, so I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to I almost said Dr. Rabb. Mrs. Pelko.
I'm not a doctor.
Dr. Pelko.
Thank you, Mrs. Hausum. Okay, moving on to item number 2, I want to set it up for our levy bond discussion. So just want to give the board another opportunity. I know George in the last meeting shared some deadlines and some, timing wise of what he would need to file. So George. Okay.
Well, no, it wasn't kicking on for whatever reason, so it must have kicked on. Yeah. Unless Steve did something.
All right. Everybody okay? Okay. All right. So again, just want to give the opportunity for the board to continue the discussion on the levy and the bond and potential next steps. Listed again for you are all of the documents that both Cameron and George shared previously with you. Again, I know we talked a little bit about the filing timelines, and so again, tonight isn't about giving direction. This is about just having an open discussion for the community, for yourselves, to have the opportunity to discuss it further. In front of you, I did put together a couple documents, just to kind of anchor you in some of the considerations. So one is just questions there and things that you need to consider, starting with, what financial benchmark should the district target? Do we want to stick with our 90 days of cash balance? How long do you want the operating levy solution to reasonably last? Levels of reductions and, going on into the bond issue as well, timing-wise and things like that. So again, the next one just is some things to consider, points of possible discussion for you. As we look at the financial modelings, the levy history, timing scenarios, again, it's just a sheet that kind of put things in decision areas like timing, structure, targets again, and the scope of it, and identifies some advantages and risks and maybe questions that you want to consider. So I will turn it over to you, Mrs. Hausum, to get the discussion started. And again, we don't need a decision tonight. But George, did you want to remind them of the filing timelines?
Yeah, let me go over the timelines real quick. So there's the bond and the levy, let me back up. The bond and the operating levy kind of have two different timelines in the sense where the bond has to be, there's steps for the bond that are sooner. So Tim, just to get you caught up, obviously we had the bond issue that we were on in May. It was voted down. If the board decides to put it back on November, there's a timeline for us to get that on the ballot. And then also, we had that operating levy from 2019 that previously failed. We have another operating renewal levy. So we had two at one point, renewal levies. So this is our second one. It was originally passed in 2002, and it's a 5-year. It's been renewed ever since, every 5 years. So that's first up in, there's a tax year and a collection year. So the tax year, or the collection year lags behind the tax year. So it ends this tax year, but then the collection year will be next calendar year. So it ends this tax year. So the first year we can go on the ballot, the first time we can go on the ballot for it is this November. And if it's not renewed by next November, that expires as well. So that's $8 million. And then due to the expiration of the other levy that failed, it's causing us to deficit spend, and that cash balance that everyone talked about is drastically going away year by year. So depending on what the board wants to do, the options that we're discussing. So if we decide to move forward with a bond, and we can do any combinations, it's just not one issue, but if we decide to move forward with the bond, the timeline for the bond is the filing deadline for the 4% consent resolution. That is, there's an assessed valuation of the city, and and that's what generates the millage, the tax dollars in the millage. You can only have so much debt. It's a credit card limit. So we have our current debt with the middle school and the high school. The new middle school that was built in 2012, and high school renovations. With this new debt, we would exceed kind of our limit. So we would need to file a 4% consent resolution with the tax commissioner to get approval. We did that last time and it was approved. But the filing deadline for that is by July 6th. So it's the 120th day. We should file it before July 6th. So the board would have to approve it by its June 30th board meeting. So meaning that we would need direction at the June 11th meeting to bring that to you for the June 30th board meeting, unless we have another meeting sometime in between. And then, once we approve that, and then we kind of follow the same process as an operating levy, but we would need the resolution one with the county. That is the resolution necessity that certifies the millage amount for the ask. We would do that at our July 9th meeting. That would be brought to you at the July 9th meeting for vote. And then, once we receive the certification back from the county, that would need to be approved. The filing deadline for that is July 28th. We don't have another meeting scheduled in July, so we would need to call a special board meeting sometime before July 28th. If we follow our same cadence, that would be July 23rd. And then it would need to be filed by July 28th, the Board of Elections, which is the 98th day. So that is for a bond. Operating funds, renewal levy, or new money, if we're just talking about property tax issue, it's kind of just working backwards. We need the two resolutions. The filing deadline to file that with the Board of Elections is August 5th. We would just need to do the resolution of necessity and resolution to go on the ballot before August 5th. So looking at the calendar year, we can do resolution 1 either June 30th or July 9th. If we do it at June 30th, we would need direction from the board on June 11th to bring it to June 30th. But if not, we still have July 9th. And then we would have to do a special meeting sometime before August 5th. We could do July 23rd to hold a special board meeting. So, any questions on that? The bond is earlier than the operating. So bond, we would need direction at our next board meeting if we decide to go for a bond. But we could also do the resolution of necessity and not move forward with the other two resolutions. So we could always move forward with it and then not do anything. We did that 2 years ago.
Can we stop after the second part too? Can we stop anywhere in the process?
Resolution number 2,
Yeah.
that is the resolution to give me authority to file with the Board of Elections.
So no.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we could stop after
Just after the first one.
the consent agenda, or after the 4% consent resolution. We can stop after the resolution of necessity.
So that's two things? Or is that
Yeah,
at the
well,
same time?
really, there's 3. The first one is the consent, the 4% consent.
Okay.
And then resolution 1 and 2, I know it's a little confusing, but the ones in July, like if you look, I'm gonna try and blow it up. It's not, let me blow it up any further. In terms of the bonds, this is the first one. This is the first one, but it's on its own. And these two are a package where they go 1 and 2, because this is the first one that goes to the county, and this is the second one that goes to
So
the
we
county.
can only pause after the first,
We could pause
the
after.
June one.
We could also pause after the first one for the county.
Okay, that's what I was
Yeah.
trying to get clear down. Thank you.
Yep. Resolution 2 is the authority to move forward with the board.
So it's item number 1, we can pause after.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. And then the very last one in both cases, that requires it requires a supermajority for affirmative votes.
George, while you've got the mic, can you talk about the cash balance?
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of give an overview of the 5-year forecasts, kind of similar to what I did last time to try and catch Tim up. So Tim, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I don't mind. So, Tim, twice a year I have to do a 5-year forecast, and we have to file it with the state. The previous deadlines were May and October. Now they got switched to February and August. So in August, we'll have to present a 5-year forecast to the board and then file it with the state. And then when the state receives it, they'll look at certain metrics to determine if the district is in a fiscal status of watch, caution, or emergency. And then once you're in one of those statuses, they make you submit a plan on how you're going to get out of that. And depending on the plan that you submit, they can come in as well and be a fiscal agent of the district, or a fiscal overview. So where we're at right now is just kind of looking at this chart. If the blue is revenues, the orange is expenditures. So right now, 2026 is our current fiscal year. Our fiscal years run from July 1 through June 30th, so it's similar to a school year. So for this current fiscal year that we're in, that we're about to close, 2026, our revenues, our expenditures are going to be about $10 million more than our revenues. In 27, they're going to be about 12 million. Our expenditures are going to be about $12 million more. And then 28, they're going to be about 16.3 million. And then in '29, there'll be about 18.8. Once we get in '29, we're going to be in a cash deficit, and by law, we're not allowed to be there. So we'll have to make either, we only have two options, either increase revenues or decrease expenses, and our only options to increase revenues is either a property tax levy or an income tax levy. And to reduce expenditures is obviously making cuts which impact programs. So kind of looking at a high level of the 5-year forecast. I have to present it two ways, one with the renewals in the revenues and one with the renewals including the revenues. This one shows the renewals not in the revenues, it kind of shows it on the bottom. So our first year that would impact if the current renewal does not pass is 2028. It'd be a half year coming off the books in fiscal year 2028, and then in fiscal year 2029 would be the full amount. If it is not renewed, our deficit spend in '28 would be about $21.5 million. We would finish the year with about $600,000 in cash in the bank. If it was renewed, we would have that $4.1 million, so we would finish about $4.7 million in the bank. The key thing for me is the deficit spend. Although we do have cash that we're drawing down, the wider that gap goes, it's harder to close that gap. And this kind of just puts the renewal back in the top. So the key thing is we have that renewal. If that's not passed, that increases the gap. But whether with the renewal or without the renewal, fiscal year '29 is the year that we go into a cash deficit that we have to solve. And the way that the state looks at it, this is more of the statement view of it, but they start looking at the third year. So when I filed this year, the third year was positive. It was 2028. When I filed it in August, the fiscal years are all going to shift now because 2026 is no longer the first year of the forecast. It's going to be a past year of the forecast. So 2027 will be the first year. That'll be positive. 28 will be positive, and then 29 will be negative. So sometime in September, maybe early October, we'll receive a letter from the state that you're showing a deficit on line 12.01. You have X number of days to submit a plan back, to adopt a plan by the board and submit it to the Department of Education as to what you're going to do. And then they'll be working with us to implement that plan. Going into fiscal oversight is not ideal. I've never been a part of it, but I know other districts have come in. Once you set a budget at the beginning of the year, you can't change it. You can't move you can't make any adjustments to it. If you have savings in a line item, they want you to keep it. If you want to transfer that savings to another fund, they won't allow it. They want you to spend whatever you budgeted in, so you kind of lose local control on that aspect. So ideally is not to get to that point. They want you to get stability and get you out.
George?
Yes.
That, what you just described about not being able to move budget items and things like that, that's in the first level? That comes with the first letter we're going to get sometime this year?
It depends on the level they come in.
Okay, so that's
it's
not a given yet?
It's not a given yet.
Okay.
The given is that they're going to send a letter and tell us to submit a plan.
And you said submit a plan within X amount of days. Is it literally days, do you expect?
I don't know if it's 60. That's where I'm not sure. I don't know if it's, I don't think it's 30. It might be 60 or 90. I'm not
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
If we can kind of move into the month, I like that better then.
What's that?
If we're talking 60 to 90, where I can count in months, I
Yeah.
like that a little better. Thank you.
Yep. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't asked those questions from the, yeah. And then looking at cash days, that's kind of what we kind of measure based on our policy. We do have a cash balance policy that states that we would have 90 days cash on hand within the 5-year forecast. We look at that in the 5th year of the forecast. If not, if either the superintendent and I present that to the board to make them aware, and then we could start looking at options, kind of what we've been doing for the past several months. So this year, we'll finish about $149 cash days. Next year will be about 27, or 89 cash days, so we'll be at that 90-day mark. 28 will be at 24, and then 29 and 30, which are the last 2 years of the forecast, will be in the deficit. So we're below our cash balance policy in that sense.
George, does the state have guidelines on cash on hand days?
ODE does not. The auditor's office put out a recommendation I think they had years ago. I think they were 3 months, which is 90 days. I was part of a OASBO team, which is the Ohio Association of School Business Officials, that we put out a white paper, and there we were recommending 90 days cash on hand. And also, I know the rating agencies, they look at that as well.
Do we know what other Cuyahoga County communities are doing?
They're in the process of developing cash balance policies as well, just from kind of leading it. We were one of the first. I know in the past couple months where everyone's cash balances were being scrutinized, everyone was developing a cash balance plan. I don't know what each school in the county is, if they have one, but these were also newly ones rolled out from Neola to adopt. So we could start looking at their cash balance policies to see what they are, if they have one or not. And then also within our policy too, it's stated, when a operating cash balance exceeds 150 days, the superintendent or the treasurer may recommend the funds be transferred to an approved 070 capital projects fund for future improvements as approved by the board. The transfer must be approved by the board and cannot result in the general operating fund cash balance falling below 90 days in any year of the rolling 5-year forecast. So when this policy was adopted, we looked at those metrics, and this was before the renewal levy expired. So at that time, I think it was in 2022 or 23, working with the Finance Committee, we recommended this policy. And we also moved $25 million to the 070 Capital Projects Fund. Some of it's been spent. There's about $21 million remaining in it. Prior to the bond issue, Tim, we had committed about $10 million to be used for certain projects, and 3.3 million of that, or 3.2 was for the turf, and then another 2.5 was for a payoff of another debt that we would need to be paid off to do the Muraski improvements, and then the remaining was towards the arts. So just wanted to let you know where the turf money is coming from. So any questions on where we're at and then where we're headed? And then at the last meeting, I had presented several simulations for the board, or scenarios for the board. It's linked on the agenda. The value of renewal levy. So kind of going through them, just kind of looking at current situation. The renewal levy is about 8.3 million. If we have no new levy, if we do not make reductions, our 2030 cash balance would be a negative 32 million. Scenario 1, if we had the renewal levy, an additional 7.5 mil levy, that would generate about 17 million. Our ending cash balance in fiscal year 30 would be about 26 million, and the cash days would be 98 million. That is if it is approved in November of 2026. So I forgot to mention the timeline for these scenarios is also critical, because if we approve it in November, we can start collecting on it next calendar year, so calendar year 2027. So the collections based on a calendar where our school years overlap 2 calendar years. If it's passed in May or November of 2027, we don't start collecting on it until calendar year 28, so it delays it. So it would make the ask, it would need, not the ask, but it would need to be a larger amount in order to get to where we need to be. Scenario 2 is still looking at a November 26 timeline. It's a combination of reductions and a new operating levy to kind of balance the ask along with the renewal. So it would be a $5.5 million, or 5.5 mil levy that would generate about 12.4 million. The current renewal and reductions of $5 million, that would get us to 99 cash days in the last year of the forecast. Scenario 3 would be looking at either a May 2027 or November 27 renewal and a new mill levy without any reduction. So it's kind of the same as scenario 1 and 3, but just a year later. So kind of get to the same point, that ask would need to be about $6 million higher. And then scenario 4 is similar to scenario 2, but if the ask was, if the levy was approved in calendar year 2027, where it would delay a year, that the ask would just need to be bigger. So those are the various scenarios. If there was no renewal levy, no new levy, we would need to make $18 million annual reductions to kind of get to that same point. So.
And when
yeah,
you
that's
have
where we're at.
renewal levy plus additional, we're just putting a new levy on, correct? We're just taking those numbers, combining and putting a new levy.
That's
That's up
discussion
for
for the board.
discussion.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't know if we can have a renewal and a levy.
Yeah, well, you could have two separate asks,
Right.
or one thought would be to let the renewal levy just kind of run its natural course, and then, can't say replacement name, but a new levy that would
Right.
have to include what the value of that renewal levy was, plus any new money that we need into one ask.
Thoughts, questions?
Jenny, what,
Yes.
is there a specific outcome for today that we need, or is just the goal to just talk?
I think the goal is just to talk today, to try to understand a little bit more, answer any questions that you have, and kind of give the board the opportunity to discuss this, because as George said, you know, there are some situations, if we're going to do a resolution, that by the June 11th meeting, we would need direction on what that resolution would be. And so, again, as a board, you have to have these conversations publicly, and so this is the opportunity just to discuss.
I mean, something that's on my mind is how long, we know we need new money. How long do we want new money to last?
Yeah.
Those of you who were here last time we passed new money, which no longer exists, but at that time in 2019, what was can you remind me what the time frame was? It was supposed to last through X?
So we didn't have a cash balance policy at that time.
Okay.
But we were looking at, the board kind of gave direction at that time to find a number that would last about 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, I was going to say 10, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. McKee, you were on the board at the time, was my memory right?
Yep. And again, history is only so good of a teacher, but at the time, we wanted it to last 8 to 10 years, thinking that was a reasonable amount of time between asks for the community. The thing that nobody predicted was the pandemic, and since then, it seems that the consequence of 8 to 10 years is large cash balances. And the consequence of the pandemic was it exacerbated the cash balance. I feel the board did good fiscal prudence and stewardship and created part of the cash balance policy was to address that and to give the money direction and let ourselves and the public know what the plans were. At the end of the day, a large cash balance is looked at negatively by a majority of the voters, it would seem. So I would caution that, using that same metric to try to see where we want to target things. I think we need to consider a shorter period of time, which means a tighter budget, but it addresses especially with the economy as it is today. I think it addresses the realities that weren't true in 2019. I was going to suggest, since the deadlines for the bond are sooner than the deadlines for the levy, maybe we could have some discussion about the bond first, try to get some kind of understanding of things to consider for the bond, and then have that similar conversation on the levy. So I was, if it meets Madam President's approval, I have been thinking about this quite a bit, and so I wanted to suggest a possible path forward. George, do you have yeah, that's the slide. I can't read it that far away, so I'm going
Try
to
and
read
blow
it
it up.
closer up.
Tim, you also have this handout for you.
Which one is that, George?
Is this the bond modeling?
The
Yeah,
bond project
modeling.
budget.
Nope.
So if we look at it, the original May 2026 bond was projected to come in at 158 million. We were going to use approximately 10.5 million from the 070 fund, and so the ask was 147.5 million dollars for the bond, rough numbers. The estimate of a 3% increase is, in November, brings us from 158 to 162. We don't get a 3% increase in the bond, so we would still earmark potentially the 10.5 million from the 070 fund, which takes our ask to 152 million. So one thing that I wanted to see whether it resonates or not is to go back to the voter. We felt that we did a great job comparatively from previous things with communication, et cetera. It seems that we had some positive resonance. But go back to the voter and have a honest, frank conversation and say, as a board, we will find the difference. And the ask will be the exact same ask as we did in May of 2026. And so we as a board and as an admin team, we would have to find the difference, and where that difference would come from is potentially the 070 fund, which has consequences to other projects for the 070 fund. Potentially, we have a number of contingencies in our bond project. So if those contingencies work in our favor, that potentially addresses that issue. When we did the middle school, high school project, lightning was in a bottle and it was a perfect time. And every estimate, the actual construction costs were below that. What we were able to do for the community at that point in time was deliver more for the same dollar. And so as a factual example, the upgrades we did at the bus area, the upgrades we did to Rademacher Miller Road, none of those were part of the original bond project for the middle school. But because we had construction savings, we were able to do much more. And Mr. Breckner has a spreadsheet somewhere
Yeah, there was more to
to
it.
delineate exactly what we did more, but it was substantial. And I don't believe that magic will repeat. But we potentially can come up with some savings from construction cost. We potentially contingencies. For example, we have an estimate on what we're going to have to do with Sarar. Well, if the odds are in our favor and we're able to determine ways to not have to spend that, that would address that cost. And then the fourth way we would address the difference would be a judicious look at some of the construction and saying, where are we comfortable pulling back? I think that's a reasonable goal with those different pots. And for me, being the fiscal wonk that I am, at the end of the day, we have the money with the 070 fund, because I want to be able to go to the public and say, we can deliver on this promise. But it would also be with the message that this is a one-time opportunity. if it doesn't pass in November, and the board has to consider something in May of 2027, I'm not comfortable with trying to maintain the numbers at a 6% ask. I don't, my fiscal stewardship isn't that tight. I'm a cheap SOB, but I'm not that good. So that's something I think we can consider. I think there's some resonance to it, and I think it has a good balancing message that we will come back to the voter with the exact same ask, and we will trim the difference through good stewardship.
Would we be prepared for a November ask if we scaled back what we're asking for, or would that take more time? Like, we asked for the 147.6 in May, right?
Right.
And obviously, the plan made sense, and it still makes sense, but just knowing how the outside world acts and reacts, are we prepared to scale it back to be ready for a November ballot, or no?
I think the difficulty from my perspective is where you come in on the conversation, right? And so this plan that the May 2026 plan that we went forward with, we've already had those conversations in spades, not, well, let's see, and then we'll see if we come back. So the challenge is there's not a whole lot for us to say, you know what, that was a nice to have. We've already gone through this and said, these are need-to-haves with the lens of, we want to be in a position that the district's buildings are planned for the next 30 to 50 years. And so, yeah, you can, and we've done it. We've been at the community meetings where they're like, well, just cut it in half. And it's like, well, you can cut it in half, but now we're making a 15-year plan. And some of it doesn't hold up regardless. And I just, for my opinion, to just share it, is you get into that trouble of sometimes you're just looking at numbers on a spreadsheet, and it's real easy to say, well, I'm just going to lop 10% off. And then you go back to the project, and you're like, all of this stuff isn't, this is all critical, right? And I will give credit to Cameron and Jenny, et cetera. They've done the work with the architects and said, what do we truly need? And used what I call Strongsville values. It is middle of the road. Yeah, you could do less, but the consequence of doing less is you'll regret it. That's my 2 cents, but with inflation, it's at least a nickel.
That was the same question I've been thinking about, Tim, is, we've heard that from the public of, is there a way to make this cheaper? Probably, but it would require starting the whole process all over again. We would have to go, we've been doing, 2 years, solid 2 years of feedback from the community, and we could, but it probably not fast enough. And that's where I get hung up, is I want to consider every option, but I think we've done that to the best that we can for right now. I do think that's an interesting suggestion about we'll make up the difference of the 3%, because it keeps the number the same. But it also highlights the risk of waiting for the public. And I don't think that risk hits home very often of 3% every time. It's an interesting suggestion. Can we, if there's no harm in going forward with the first bond, can we just agree to do that? I don't see why we wouldn't.
You mean the first resolution?
The first, whatever the first step is.
Right.
If there's no harm and do you need a specific number for that?
I do need a specific number.
Okay.
Because that can't change once that's,
Okay, so that's,
or it can't go high, it can't go higher.
okay, so that would be
Yeah.
we have to come up with the number.
Right, it needs to be a reasonable, we can't make up I remember this from our fall conversations. There has to be a number in there. It has to be tied to something. And we can go down when we do the final resolution, we just can't go higher.
Okay. So we could, in theory, add the 3%, make it for that max value, and then take time to consider if we want to pull it back a little bit.
By the time we do that, by the time we do this resolution.
So July 9th.
The July 9th, we would need the actual number.
So that gives us an extra month to really get feedback from the community, kind of test it in the water. I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't see any risk there for us doing it that
So we
way.
could do the resolution of necessity with, essentially with, 152 million asked. And then if we need to reduce it,
Yeah.
okay.
The only thing we should consider is the risk of messaging. Because
Yeah,
people
right.
hear things.
Right.
And they tip their foot in the water and then don't do it on a regular basis. So I would want to just be cautious that if we know what we want to do, we should go forward with what we want to do, because sometimes you only get that one chance at the conversation.
Although I'd like to think that if it goes down, that would be a good thing. But that's an assumption.
It's also an assumption that they heard that it goes down
Correct,
versus they
correct.
just stuck with the 3% increase.
I could also get the millage rate between the two. I don't know if I don't know if it matters or not versus
Oh, I see.
the total
Oh,
number
right.
versus the millage rate, it depend on the interest. I don't know, over 36 years, that $4.7 million of difference, how much is really going to impact the millage rate,
Right.
if that
That's a
makes
good point.
any difference in the thinking.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know if I heard what we think we're going to change the outcome. Other than just doing it more, executing again, do we think that the voters have buyer's remorse and they regret not showing up to vote for this? Like, what's our thoughts on that? Because I didn't hear that we're changing anything. I just heard that we're yes and more of it. We're going to give them another bite at the apple.
You're right, no, we didn't talk about any changes. And when I look at the plan, I don't see where, again, it goes to Tim's point of, do we want to go back to the drawing board and scale back? And I don't think that's possible to do by November.
What happens if it doesn't pass in November?
Great question.
Yeah, at the full ask of what we asked in May, and messaging and optics won't be probably the best at that point.
And then the percentage would increase as well, if you go to May, then is the next opportunity, then you're looking at a 6% increase and, obviously more.
At what point do we say that that's just not achievable?
Not in November. Not to put too fine a point on it, but I think sometimes you can think yourself into circles. And it's our job, part of our job as a board is to say, this is the requirements, and then let the voter do their job. So, yeah, I do think, as far as our communication is concerned, one of the things that resonates with me is we're not shifting. We're saying that the message we had last time is the same message we're having this time, because it's a good message. It's reasonable. We've balanced multiple needs. We've listened to everyone. I'm leery to continue to change things. I don't see anything defective in what the project was.
I think the project was, being new to sitting here and being an outsider, 3 hours ago, I thought the project was fantastically laid out. I thought that everything was explained in very well detail, and as a community member, I was extremely excited about it. obviously the outcome isn't what we wanted. So I think the whole aspects of it was great, and the ask is, again, I'm coming in the middle of the game here, we're in the fourth quarter. Was it a lot to ask at one time? I don't know. I haven't heard that yet, but that could be a feeling that others are seeing is, X amount throughout the course of a year out of, my pocket. Do we ask for too much at one time? But if we're not ready to do this again now, in terms of the whole, we're not ready for November. That's what we're saying, right?
Something that's resonated with me is, I'm sorry.
No,
Michelle,
absolutely, go
like,
ahead.
it was so close. I think if it was like a 75% no, 25% yes, I'd be like, yeah, we got to go back to the drawing board. Like, but we were so close, 400 some votes.
No, I don't disagree.
And that gives me, that is a positive for me to think that we still can do this.
And we know where the hot spots are at, of where we need to tackle.
I agree with that, but I think that, from my perspective, I'm more concerned about an operating levy than I am about a bond. And I feel, I don't want to overload November. That we asked for too much and we're given no, even if one or the other would have had merits and had legs.
You're worried about like a double no, essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying
Even if
go
they're
to the
separate.
table with both?
What, asking for too much in November, I feel like is a real risk. November has a lot of headwinds already, and then it looks like the feedback loop didn't complete its cycle if we put up a bond and a levy. And if it's either or, I'm more interested in operating than the bond. Because that feels like it triggers all sorts of state reviews, fiscal oversight, all of the things that we do not want to have happen to us. That feels like the most urgent burning platform.
Can I go back just a second to that question you asked before about like what's different? There is one thing, and I don't know that it's enough to move the needle, but presumably by the time, I mean wishfully, I guess, but because some things move slow. By the time we were to start messaging this, we would have an answer on the pipeline. And that was something that did come up repeatedly of how do you expect us to vote for this if we don't know exactly what we're getting on the Sherrard property? That will change. We will have a definitive answer, hopefully in short order. Is it enough to move the needle? I don't know, but it's something that's changing.
No, that is changing. I don't know the magnitude of that impact. But it certainly affects certain people a lot more acutely.
Other questions, comments?
I was just going to highlight one more thing. It's on the bond levy analysis sheet. It has blue on it for you to, yes, that one. Again, just there are some givens that Cameron highlighted at the top. So again, just to kind of bring your attention back to that. And George, jump in if I'm saying anything not correct, but
Jenny, which one are you on?
I'm on the bond,
Bond levy analysis.
yes.
Is it one of the ones that's late, or this one? Oh,
It's listed on the sheet, George.
Second from the bottom.
Yes. Got it. So just again, the urgency is definitely by May 2027 for operations. That was the key. The bond urgency by May 2027, if we want to preserve that current scope of the project, at that point. It'd be detrimental, with pricing and timeline, we would get into higher and higher, percentages there. He mentioned a lot about the high-risk political environment in November 2027, so, again, deciding on something either in November or May. There's a lot going on with the tax sentiment and property taxes, and that's still there. So I just, again, it just kind of, as you're talking, kind of reminded me of some things to think about in terms of the urgency of certain things. And and the cost to it for, waiting on others, so. And then again, just to anchor you, Tim, in the scenarios there's different things that he outlined as well, for different options and things that you can think about.
So as far as the levy is concerned, I think we do need to address it in November. I don't think we have the ability to choose not to address it. For a number of reasons, I think we should look at a 5-year timeline. And
The last 5 years?
correct. I don't, there's the needs of the voter, there's the needs of the district, and they intersect, but I don't think we can, I think it confuses the waters much too much to have multiple leapfrogging levies for operating funds. So I think we need to condense it to one vote, one number, one amount. So the next question is what should that be? And I think a 5-year timeline is reasonable. And then I think the work for us as a board is finding that sweet spot of new money and cuts and figuring out where that's comfortable. The sooner we start looking at that, it is much easier to cut $500,000 every year for 5 years than it is to try to cut $2.5 million at once. So there is some incentive for us to do that sooner than later, but I think our path forward is somewhere around a 5-year horizon, somewhere of a allowing the existing levy to fall off the books so that it will be an additional tax increase, but it will not be as drastic as it looks. That will be a communication and messaging issue to make sure people understand that it's not a total increase. Part of that is going to be mitigated by the existing renewal coming off. All the other scenarios just muddy the message. I think it serves us and it serves the voter to have as clear a message as possible so that they can determine their own pocketbook issues. I don't think we can stage them. I think we need to put them both on the ballot in November at the same time. One of the things that I heard multiple times when we were out talking about the bond is everybody asked, but what about the levy? And it was always in the idea of they were afraid that when's the other shoe going to fall? And so I think as a board and as a philosophy, we should just be as honest as we can with the voter. And we have a building issue, and it's serious, and waiting has financially detrimental consequences. We also have paycheck issues. We have operating fund issues, and waiting has detrimental consequences. So I think our work is to find out what those amounts are, what are reasonable to allow us to provide the opportunities in the education at the best value to the taxpayer. And then Eric, some of it I think we just need to be honest and allow the voter the opportunity to tell us what they think, knowing that our track record's not very good.
I agree with that. I'm just wondering that feedback loop, when they do tell us what they think, what do we do? And I want to be respectful and come back with different options, right? And
The part of the feedback is if it fails, what will we have to do? And George has already started that conversation. Yep. If it fails, we're looking at either 18 million or $24 million in cuts. So what does that actually, it's easy to say, we all know internally how draconian that is, but we are not breaking any guidelines or rules when we say, if it fails, these are the draconian cuts, this is how the district will look. And, you know, some people are gonna take their pot shots, but I think it's factual, and I think as long as I can comfortably and honestly say, these are our options, I trust that the voter will make an informed and correct decision.
Yeah. I like your thoughts on the operating levy. I kind of agree with that. I think 1 versus 2 makes sense to me. I like it combined. In my head, I have this talk track of get to green. I like it because it's Mustang. But then also getting us into a fiscal plane for a 5-year plan. That's how we plan. All of that kind of sings in a very, you tune into even half of these meetings, we always talk about a 5-year plan. Asking for 5 years worth of funding, and that we want to get green and out of the red is a nice counter to our cash on hand, cash over caching that we've had and we found ourselves in before. That's no longer a thing. And I think even calling that out and saying get to green acknowledges the fact that we are in the red. We want to be healthy. People want that naturally. So I feel like that's a winner of a message. I wonder if you layer on then this bond issue, if it's not sticker shock and too much, and then if that gets combined together, then we just up the stakes, right? We kind of go all in. And I don't know if how people would react to that. I suspect it won't be great. So that's kind of just where my head's at as I'm starting to think about this.
One little quick capper, I do think the 90-day cash balance policy is sound, and I don't think we should deviate from it. From a cash flow perspective, we only get cash twice.
What are we going to?
We only get cash twice a year. So if anything, I would be arguing for a larger period of time. But to suggest that when you only get cash twice a year, you're going to go for less than 90 days cash, that's not something I think is wise for anyone. 90 days cash, knowing cash flows twice a year concerns me all by itself. I can come up with scenarios where that's a problem. But to consider a 60 or 30 day, I don't see how we realistically advocate for that. So as far as that, coming up with that number for the millage of the increase in money plus cuts, I would want to incorporate, I would not want to deviate from that 90-day cash balance policy.
I'm just thinking about what Eric said and overloading the voter, trying to explain that we've got a renewal levy falling off, we're adding money, you're not, it's not gonna be as much as you think it's gonna be. Oh, and we need new buildings, 2 separate votes, let the people pick what, vote for it all, vote for one. I just don't know how you message that. I'm thinking from the simple yard sign to the door hanger to our factual sheets, how do you message all that?
Get to green. 'Cause if it's just one, we're not green.
So you're arguing that having 2 separate ones might be advantageous?
I think if we go
Operating
all-
or bond, sorry.
No, if we go all in November, I would want it to be separate.
All in
Operating
meaning we're going to do operating and
and
bond.
bond, but
Two
2
different
separate
two
issues.
different questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Give the voter the option. You can help us operationally and help us build new buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So you saying like that, or you think that's overload?
I like that because when you look at the spreadsheet that we're gonna add $10 million to our project if we wait till next May. But I'm still concerned that it's just gonna be system overload, how do you message that?
The one thing to consider, and this is where I would be considering it, is if we choose not to have a full menu, if we choose not to say, this is what we as your elected officials feel is necessary for our school district to be a premier school district, we're in the converse, we're not giving the voter the option. We're blocking that option, and it is the more expensive option. Whichever one we choose second will cost the voter more. And so as far as messaging is concerned, for me, the message is if you want to, A, have this thing of value in our community, and you want to do it as cost-effectively as possible, the time is now to do both. And it's the same argument as retirement planning. How do I do it?
I just don't think it plays psychologically. I think it's factual. It's mathematically correct. I can't argue against it. But from a psychological perspective, I just don't know if people will meet us there. Especially with this anti sort of tax point of view, and some people being very cavalier about their understanding of taxes and wanting to kind of revisit that and what that means.
But we did have a room full of people. So we just have to figure out how to get
For sure.
the passion out there.
I 100% agree with that too. But there's a group of people that I just don't know if they're very movable, and so I'm trying to understand that. I don't want to triangulate on people who aren't movable, who are kind of like, I can't even do what we want to do now. And I don't want the district to have to be lowest common denominator, because we have to find a path forward. If we want to continue to be a premier district, if we want to continue to be a destination community, it requires investments in certain ways. And it's on us to sort of stage those so that they become digestible and palatable. Throwing them out there and saying we have lots of needs, I could see someone saying, everyone's got needs right now. I'm with you, sister, right? Like, that's kind of where everyone's at. So that's why I'm thinking of one or the other, but I'm more worried about an operating perspective, because some people were scratching their heads and saying, you guys were just asking for money for operating, and then now you're in the bond. Where are we at with that? I'd like to have one message, I guess, or bifurcate it, but hopefully it doesn't. I want to understand how that plays out psychologically, having two different things, two different line items. Is it automatically double negative? Would people split their vote or not? Like, I don't have a sense for that.
There have been communities recently that have done that, so I think we could probably do our homework and see what that messaging was, and they were nearby. I think Columbia Station just did it.
Independence.
Independence, there's a
that's the one I was
couple of them
thinking
that
of.
just did it. Some were successful, some weren't, so we have multiple data points.
Successful on a double pass or partial pass?
Yes. There's examples of communities that did a double pass. There's examples of communities that they chose one over the other.
Yeah.
So I think we could at least get that data.
Do you feel like that message is still hard to overcome? It's just two different efforts, two different.
Something you just said resonated with me, though, that when people are like, well, you're just asking for operating. So we tried the renewal 3 times, we failed, we moved to the bond. If we move back to just operating, are we flipping again? Or
People aren't gonna know what we're asking for at some point. If they're just dabbling in this once a year, they're not gonna know what we're really asking for. They're not gonna be well-informed, because they're like, okay, which one is this now?
Right. And
For
if
sure.
we do both separate asks and we sell it as the urgency that it is, that we don't have time anymore to pick one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message there is we've been trying to listen to the voters, right? Like, you said it, no, no, no to operating, so we said, we hear you. Let's try something different. Let's see if this is a need that resonates with the community. And we have feedback, and it was really close. So, yeah, I think the risk is going back and forth is confusing.
As far as consistency and message is concerned, we were consistent with the bond that the levy discussion, the operating discussion, would be the next conversation. So from my perspective, we're still being consistent. The only difference is we're still pulling the bond question forward because it failed. But to Eric's point, all of this is dependent on the voter, but I'm comfortable that we have a good message, and I'm comfortable that we'll accept the voters' response.
Would you put both of them forward as separate?
That's what I'm suggesting. I'm
Okay.
suggesting two 2 ballot issues, one for the bond, because we are going to be very upfront. We're going to try again, and we have a way for the voter to keep their ask the same, and we'll inherit and deal with that burden. But the proviso is it's a one-time magic trick. And then the second vote is for paycheck. It's for operating levy. And we'll have that conversation, and, I'm leery to go back to 2007 and failure here, et cetera. I think we just level set and say, this is the amount, this is the ask, and this is what you get for it. And this is the consequence of choosing not to invest.
And so just a question that's on my mind in terms of reductions. I think one of the things you have to think about is, would the reductions, as you kind of talk about amounts and all of that, would there be 5 million in reductions that would happen no matter what? Or would they not happen if it was voted for? And so I think, like to Rich's point, always giving the community an option before those are enacted is important, so that they have a say in that. But again, just something to think about if we're going to, we've said before, we'll make $1 million in reductions that won't be catastrophic, that, not that anything is, that we want to lose anything. But at this point, it's going to be, we've already kind of done that this year. So we would be, looking a little deeper, and it would impact more kids and more staff and that kind of thing. So again, just, we would need to start preparing for that now, starting the start of this year, and looking into that. And we have some things already from before, but.
Well, I think it's a combination of both. If I heard Mr.
Yeah.
Miko correct, your suggestion was whatever the ask is, to make it last 5 years, there's a combination of reductions there. But I think we also have to be prepared if the ask, the ballot issue that's out there, if it doesn't pass, that we have to make those, not just the reductions that were tied to the levy, but the value of the total ask to get us to where we need to be as well. So I think we would
Right.
need to be prepared for both.
Right.
Yeah, and that resonates with me. I mean, the coming up with that 5-year amount and what that increase, I don't think we're in a position to say that we're not going to try to tighten our belt at all, right?
Agree.
So we need to tighten our belt. We've already started that process. We need to put some specificity to it, because we can't save that money every year unless we start saving that money every year. And then, to George's point, we need to be clear that these are the cuts if we achieve voter support. These are the cuts if we don't.
Right.
Do we want a determination today?
No, I think,
Is that
well,
what we're trying to do?
I don't want to jump in, but I think we have some sort of direction on the next steps is to, I
Yeah.
think for the next meeting
Yeah.
is to come, at least I could put something together of
Yeah.
a simulation on what would get us to 5 years and a combination of what that renewal, new levy money would be asked. And with the, is there a figure you're thinking of cuts, or should I just come up with a baseline? We can go from there. Just to get the.
I like your calculators, right? What I would want to be able to do is say, to take a look at this much cut gets us this much benefit versus this much of an increase in millage.
Right.
And
Okay.
kind of be able to look a little bit at what's reasonable and what's not. Right? I'm leery to give you I want this number. I want to actually see the effect.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, the spreadsheet ends up being real people. And
Right.
I always want to make sure we say that out loud.
Right.
No, I appreciate the discussion. I think it, like George said, I think it gives us a little direction to provide some additional sheets, additional things for you to consider, kind of narrowing it down a little bit. And then, if you think of anything else, you can reach out. We can get that prepared. Thank you. Would you like me to continue? Okay. Continuing on with the superintendent's report, if my colleagues are still with us here, we'll have Steve Bruckner with the business services report.
Good evening, everyone. There's a few items in the business services section for your consideration. The first is a transportation for non-public students. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the school bus transportation for the students listed in the exhibit be declared impractical. The time and distance required to provide transportation, the cost of providing transportation in terms of equipment, maintenance, personnel, and administration, and the additional service unavoidably disrupts current transportation. Be it further resolved that in the payment in lieu of that we would pay the students attending this school, the reimbursement will be based upon the amount allotted by the state. The second item is for still declaring a school impractical that we had discussed at the last board meeting. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the school bus transportation to St. Mary's Catholic School, located at 250 Craft Street, Berea, Ohio, 44017, be declared impractical for the 26-27 school year. The time and distance required to provide transportation, the cost of providing transportation in terms of equipment, maintenance, personnel, and administration, and the additional service unavoidably disrupts current transportation schedules. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education, in lieu of providing transportation, pays parents of students attending the school. The reimbursement will be based on the amount allotted by the state. And all of the administration and all of the parents of the school have been, at your request, contacted prior to this.
Okay.
And then they'll receive a letter of this fact as well. Student accident insurance, this is a resolution from the superintendent that you accept the proposal of a guaranteed trust life insurance company through Love Insurance Company as a student insurance program for the Strongsville City Schools 26-27 school year. Be it further resolved that all students participating in interscholastic and intramural activities shall either purchase the appropriate insurance coverage or present a waiver signed by the parent or guardian. Such waiver shall release in all authority or in all charge from any liability resulting from medical claims. The next item is an action item. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education accepts the estimate from Pavement Maintenance Specialties for the sealing of the parking lot at Strongsville Middle School, not to exceed the amount of $26,575.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Michelle, second by Eric. Do you want to explain?
So earlier this year, a few months back, the board accepted a bid to go to the middle school and in 3 specific areas mill down the asphalt that's there and rebuild that asphalt. There's just some sections that we're starting to see some shifting, and it's causing what I call alligator cracks, or when the cracks are in close conjunction with one another. That usually means that the asphalt has been compromised, and no matter how much tar you put on that, no matter how much sealing you put on that, it's still going to do that of course, with Ohio, with every season, mostly winter, being seen here recently, it's going to keep freezing and thawing, opening up those cracks. So that was the first thing. This is specifically looking at sealing the rest of the parking lot once that work is completed. That work is to be slated to be completed within the first part of June. So once the milling is done and they've rebuilt the asphalt, this company will then come in and reseal it, which we're more familiar with even in a residential setting of just putting the tar on there, making sure all the cracks are covered so they don't expand any longer, and then restriping to existing. That specific portion is what you're voting for tonight.
Thank you. George, can you take the roll?
Sure, and just for the record, I'm going to do these outside of board docs, since Mr. Helms is not in board docs yet, so once we get him in, I'll go back into board docs and.
I have a clarifying question.
Yeah.
Is it coverage for the entire parking lot or just the part that's being redone?
This is the entire parking lot.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mr. Helms?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Motion passes.
The next item is also an action item, be resolved from the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education accept the quotes from Alco Chem Incorporated for custodial equipment. The purchase is a combination of the school safety intervention grant in the amount of $26,499 and the school safety and security grant in the amount of $39,362.78, and permanent improvement fund in the amount of $21,952.42, for a total not to exceed $87,814.20.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Steve, do you want to explain this one?
All right, so these two grants are from the BWC. So when you see safety and security or safety innovation, it's really within the context of the workers and the employees of the district. Not to say we can't also use this money, which is a 3-year cycle, for some other endeavors, but it's specifically designed to keep the employee's safety and meet OSHA requirements. So again, these are renewable every 3 years, but it is a district match. So basically, it's a 3-to-1. For every $3 you spend, you put $1 in the bill, and BWC turns around and puts $2 in the bill, up to a certain amount, which I believe on these is $50,000. So what I have been working with the custodians for a while is how do we get new equipment to them. Some of the equipment is even from buildings that are no longer with us, that just they inherited when they came in. So it was economical at the time, but that equipment has reached its lifespan. And I was able to work with the BWC to get the quotes in place. And as you can see, we're getting $87,000, almost $88,000 worth of equipment for a district investment of a little over $20,000.
Any questions? George, can you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mr. Helms?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
No, sorry, another action item tonight. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education enters into an agreement between Strongsville City Schools and ALCO for the vendor managed supply program as stated in the exhibit for 1 fiscal year, not to exceed $57,552, funding to be from the general fund, supplies, materials for custodial.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
So this is, we've had this agreement in place, I believe, for about 5 years now, if not a little bit longer. So ALCO years ago came to me and said, we would like to do this vendor-managed program with you where for an amount of money that they went through and did all their research, they said, it will cost you this much this year and you will get unlimited chemicals and also ancillary materials, some mop heads, brushes, things like that, under this vendor management program. If they don't calculate correctly and they lose money in the deal, after a certain percentage, it's their accounting error and they'll have to fix for it. If they charge us too much and we don't buy up to what they've said, so like this year, $57,000, we then get a credit so we can buy maybe some equipment from them, other materials that aren't covered by the vendor management. So it was a unique relationship rather than just paying every month. This is a way that I can estimate the costs, break this down by 12 months, and then work with my custodians to make sure we stay within budget a lot easier with this program than some programs that we previously had. So there's just an extension of that. Barring 1 year, which we can all guess, but we're too tired to try and do that, COVID, it has been spot on, and it's been a push as far as we were within the reasonable limits, where maybe we got a little bit more product, but it was within limits of, we didn't owe them any more money, they didn't owe us any money or any equipment, so it's been a very good relationship. And every year I do check with the custodians, and they're very positive about the chemicals that we are using and their effect of helping us keep the place safe and clean.
Any questions?
I had to have one, Steve. You said it's approximately 5 years we've been doing this?
5, I'd have to go back and look.
Maybe 6, because
maybe,
COVID's on the 6-ish. But do you see there coming a time when you need to shop this around again? Like if there are other companies we could partner with, or, is it better to go back to the old way? Do you see that coming in the near future, or you expect this to hold for a while longer?
I would say next year I could do that. With the volatility of the market, with COVID still being in effect, this has been the safe route because, again, we know what we're spending. When we went out and looked at other places, they could not guarantee month to month what the product was going to cost. And I didn't want to start taking that risk of maybe we win that month, but we lose the next 3 months. I wanted some consistency. Now that the market is, and some people that we even had vendors with, that we were partners with back when we started this, they're not even longer in business. They've been bought out by some larger companies. I have no problem going out and looking at that because the market seemingly has leveled off. But again, it was just the ease of budgeting this, but I can definitely go back and see. I just don't know how to account for the volatility that could happen at any moment. So.
Any other questions?
Have we ever had any complaints about any of the chemicals that we use? People who are handling them, that they're too harsh or they're not environmentally friendly?
I won't say no complaints because we always have people that have opinions that we, of course, value. But what I would say is, by and large, we have been able to address any concerns that come out through, if for example, we had, of course, the virus just leapt out of my head. We had a virus over at Sarar, and norovirus a few years ago. And there was a lot of concern of, do we have the right product? We had the salesperson come out, and yes, everything was rated to combat norovirus. So whenever we've had questions, we've been able to educate people on what exactly the chemicals can do, and usually it calms down. The only other complaint I ever hear from the custodians is they like the smell of some of the other. And I said, well, then just get an air freshener and find that smell. But if this is working and we know what it's going to cost, I don't see a reason why we would go away from it. But to answer your question, there's always opinions and comments. Sometimes they come from representatives of other companies trying to also open and wedge their way in to try and get our business. But as far as anything that we have a deficiency with the chemicals that we're using, I have not heard or seen anything like that.
George, can you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mr. Helms?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
All right. And the last action item in this section is for the Muraski Elementary and Sarar Elementary roofing improvements. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education accepts the proposal from Warren Roofing Insulating Company. The contract is under the AEPA, State Agency, Ohio Council of Education Purchasing Consortia, or OCE-PC, for the roofing improvements at Muraski Elementary and Sarar Elementary, not to exceed the amount of $669,500, and this is to come out of the Permanent Improvement Fund.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Bissell, second by Mr. Wall.
So this is a little bit of a price tag, and I know money's been talked about a lot. So this money will restore the back half of Muraski, which, regardless of any kind of bond issue plans or whatever, was always going to be saved. The reason why this is so important is from all the thermal imaging that we've done on the roofs, Muraski is in danger of moving from restore to replace. And it's only a couple letters in the word, but it's a large amount of money on the bank book. So in order to save that money that would take to replace the roof, we need to act and restore that roof as soon as possible. The rest of the roofs that's going to be used is what I've termed aggressive maintenance. And I'm sorry, the back half of Muraski then will be under a 20-year warranty with this money. The front half, which is, according to what we had up for the bond issue, was the part of the building that was going to be replaced, restored.
And then Sarar, of course, was going to become a new building, but those roofs are leaking. Instead of putting forth money to have those roofs, with a 20-year warranty when we don't know yet, and from the last discussion, it seems like we're centering in on some ideas, but ultimately it's in the hands of the voters. What I'm proposing is we do aggressive maintenance on the Sarar roof and the front half of Muraski. That could get us 5 to 8 years worth of time for a minimal investment. It does not come with a warranty, so any new leaks that come up, we're going to have to pay out of pocket for those leaks. But this is a way to bridge the gap between where we are and where we want to be without millions of dollars of investment. Also, this is coming out of permanent improvement. This is not coming out of the 070. In the past, we've been able to really kind of pay for these kind of projects knowing that we have the cash coming in to refill the coffers. I feel it's so important that we need to get these roofs under control now, because they have not been addressed in a long time, that we're really losing a lot of that buffer. For example, and as I discussed with Dr. Ryba and George, I won't be putting forth any new buses next year. And that's from conversations I've had with the mechanics, conversations I've had with transportation. There are some things, it's what's more important, what needs to be paid now. What are some decisions that we can make that maybe we didn't anticipate having to make? But, I'm comfortable without new buses for a year. If you start going down that road too much, you hit a year that all of a sudden all your buses are now not passing inspection and you're really in a hard spot. But the roofs need to be done. And I feel like this is the most practical way of restoring the roof that's still able to be restored for a 20-year warranty, and then doing enough maintenance on the front half of Muraski and all of Sarar in order to get us down the road a bit. And just also to put in there, looking at a bond passing, there's still a passage of time that happens between the money being here, construction, and then us moving in. This gives us a little bit of buffer on that as well, so we don't have to worry about how much is going to need to be invested in these roofs while we are anticipating all of this money from a potential bond issue down the road. So,
Steve, I just want to remind the public, you did run this through the Facilities Committee as well. That's a community committee. So this isn't just a single-handed decision. It's been run by the community who advises on projects regularly.
correct. And this was not the original plan. The original plan and the original estimates were all either restoration or replacement. The front half of Muraski, Sarar need to be replaced. There's no doubt about it. The restoration period has passed. If we were going to look at something with a 20-year warranty, we would have to replace those. This, again, is just aggressive maintenance to get us a little bit down the road while we keep our kids warm, safe, and dry while the next phase of buildings is decided upon.
I just want to say thank you, Steve, because I know a lot of work and thought went through this, and then just a request that while we're doing the work, it's a great opportunity to get pictures that might highlight the challenges we face when we make these Hobson choices.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? George, can you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mr. Helms?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
And the last item is not asking for money, it's talking about money that came in, so. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the following gifts be approved. Lowe's Home Centers donated 23 high-power 24-inch polyfiber push brooms valued at $758.54 to the district. And the following donations were made to Strongsville High School DECA, Distributive Education Clubs of America, Kiwanis Club of Strongsville, $500, Strongsville Chamber of Commerce, $2,000, Strongsville City Club, $1,500, Strongsville Optimist Club, $100, Strongsville Rotary Club, $2,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Up next with the curriculum report, we have Aaron Green.
Hi, good evening. I have 7 items in curriculum for you tonight. Item 1 is student teacher placements for the fall. and those are for Mount Union student and a University of Akron student. Item 2 are student-teacher internships. We have 8 of these with Baldwin Wallace University. So a nice partnership we have there. And those are for the fall as well. Item 3 is a school counseling practicum for August through December with a student from Kent State University. And then I have 3 out-of-state or overnight sports trips. Item 4 is for the high school boys golf team to travel to Meadville Country Club Tournament, August 28th through 30th. Transportation by parents' vehicles and district van. Lodging and meals paid by fundraisers and the Strongsville Athletic Boosters. Item 5 is an overnight trip for the boys varsity soccer team. Travel to Ashland, Ohio, July 17th through 19th, 2026. Transportation, parent vehicles, lodging and meals paid by Strongsville Soccer Organization and Strongsville Athletic Boosters. Item 6 is an overnight trip for the boys and girls varsity and junior varsity cross-country teams. Permission for them to travel to Mason, Ohio, September 11th and 12th, 2026. Transportation via school bus paid by the district, and then lodging and meals paid by participating students and the Strongsville Athletic Boosters. And the last item tonight is secondary student fees. So as shown in the exhibit, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the secondary student fee list be approved as presented.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up with our student services report is Andy Trujillo.
Good evening, members of the board. I have a whopping 14 items for you this evening, but I'll be efficient.
Welcome
The
back,
first is for extended school year for our students with disabilities this summer, and it's for school-age and preschool students from June 23rd to July 23rd, 26. Second is the Cleveland Clinic Learner School for Autism, and this is to enter into an agreement with the Cleveland Clinic Children's Hospital for rehabilitation on behalf of Learner School for Autism for a student with disabilities for next school year. Item number 3 is for PSI service change, which is to have a nurse at extended school year. Then we have Kids Link school placement items for 4, 5, 6, 7 in the amount of $101,000. Item 8 for Kids Link is in the amount of $103,500. STEPS Educational Group for student placement for items 9, 10, and 12 are in the amount of $85,000. Item 11 is in the amount of $91,000. And then items 13 and 14 are resolution agreements. Any questions for me? All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Next up with the Human Resources Report is Ryan Cobain.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. I have the following items in human resources for your consideration. Item 1, resignation, certificated. Item 2, resignation, non-certificated. Item 3, appointments, leadership. Item 4, appointment, certificated. Item 5, appointments, non-certificated. Item 6, appointments, certificated substitutes. Item 7, appointments, non-certificated substitutes. Item 8, appointment, certificated district substitute. Item 9, appointments, certificated athletic supplemental contracts. Item 10, appointments, non-certificated athletic supplemental contracts. Item 11, appointments, summer learning 2026. Item 12, changes in status, non-certificated. Item 13, contract recommendations, administrative. Item 14, contract recommendations, leadership. Item 15, contract recommendations, certificated, continuing contracts. Item 16, contract recommendations, certificated, limited contracts. Item 17, contract recommendations, non-certificated. Item 18, stipends, local professional development committee. Item 19, stipend, summer professional development. Item 20, leave of absence, certificated. Item 21, leaves of absence, non-certificated. Item 22, volunteers, chaperones. Item 23 is a revision, and item 24 is a revision. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, under the superintendent's report, under technology, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education enters into an agreement with Royal Business Equipment for the purchase of 25 Epson 770FI, I'm not sure, projectors and interactive touch modules to replace district equipment that is at the end of life and/or no longer functions. The total cost for this purchase is $49,279. Any questions on that one?
Are
Any
they
questions
short
for
throw
Annie?
projectors?
I'm not sure.
I'm just being.
Yes,
I'm
short
just
throw, I
being-
know, that is it.
Just-
Brings back days. And that concludes my report, Mrs. Hausman.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the report on Polaris. They've had another busy month at Polaris. Michelle, Rich, and I were able to attend a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the beginning of May for the Engineering, Robotics, and Aeronautics Wing. Automation, thank you. It's been a long 3 hours. Automation, Engineering, Robotics, Automation. We were joined by Lieutenant Governor Trussell, which I thought was kind of cool that he was able to be there to speak and help us cut that ribbon. There was also superintendents, city members from all over the surrounding districts. But I thought the coolest part was the students that are going to be impacted by the new wing. They were very excited to be there and show us around, and I'm really excited to see what's going to come out of that new wing. Also last week, they brought back senior recognition down at Wolstein Center. This is the first year they've done that since before the pandemic, so they were able to honor all of the graduating seniors. Unfortunately, we weren't able to be there because it was the same night as we were recognizing our retirees. So just want to give a shout out to our graduating seniors from Polaris. Last but not least, tomorrow is the deadline to register for Camp Discovery, and that's for grades 6 to 8. So if your kids were looking forward to that, you want to make sure you get registered for that. And that concludes the report. I'm going to pass it over to Michelle and Eric for a report on legislation.
Yeah, I'm just going to highlight something a little bit different today. We get updates pretty regularly from the Ohio School Boards Association with legislation to kind of pay attention to. So this comes from one of those reports, and it is on the topic of updating public record and open meetings laws. So one to keep an eye on, House Bill 127. This bill stems from concerns that student directory information was being requested in public records requests, and that has been something we have dealt with here, so this would affect us. As school districts push back on those requests, legislators in the House saw the need to clarify Ohio public record laws to allow schools directories to be exempt. So they're currently working through what does that look like, and it looks like it's not going to be an exemption so much as giving the school board control of whether or not we exempt the whole school directory, so it would leave it in local control, but give us some guidelines. So we'll keep an eye on that to see if that proceeds. Right now, it says it has passed the Ohio House, and the Senate Education Committee has held 3 hearings already.
I believe there's one in there too, mixed in, under that same bill about nuisance requests for
Yeah.
requesting vendor information.
I think maybe this is what, the next one says House Bill 314 aims to give public offices the ability to address vexatious requesters. So apparently this happens, I don't know that it's happened to us. What's that?
We do get them.
Where the goal is to reduce public records brought forth by the following: a requester who submits multiple requests to the same officer person, or based on the volume or repeated nature of the request, the officer or person has reason to believe the requests are intended to harass the officer person or disrupt the essential functions of the officer person. So apparently the quantity of public records requests is, needs to be addressed and in terms of protecting the school district and the students. So we have a couple things rolling there. And this one I thought is particularly interesting, House Bill 609. And I can comfortably say we won't likely have to make any changes after tonight. We do a really good job of allowing our community members to interact at our board meetings, but this one impacts open meetings and was introduced after complaints of various public bodies not allowing public testimony at regularly scheduled meetings. So we'll keep an eye on it just because it's interesting to know what the legislature is looking at. I don't anticipate it changing our procedures because we are already doing a good job listening, so that's good news. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Board liaison reports, City Council, Mr. Miko.
City Council did meet on May 18th. A couple of things that came out of that meeting, the library, there was an article in cleveland.com, but the lease for the library has been continued. There's a bunch of upgrades that have been committed to, so we'll still have that great resource in the center of town. And then I wanted to announce for the public that on June 23rd at our Strongsville Rec Center from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., NOACA will have a public meeting to go over traffic, and it should not be lost on anyone in Strongsville, but particularly I-71 and the Royalton Road interchange, and how should we address that traffic issue. So if you want your opinion to be heard, or you just want to know how NOACA is approaching the problem, June 23rd at our rec center is when the public meeting will be held. It will be the first of a number of meetings that NOACA is going to be having. And that completes my report.
Thank you. Do you want to roll right into Strongsville Education Foundation?
I do. We did have a meeting, and I have my notes. Naturally, they're not ready. By memory, I believe our next meeting is June 11th. We will thank them for the grants that we approved earlier today. One was for one of our teachers to attend a arts and STEAM conference and being able to integrate those. And the other one was for a flower garden in the front of the Strongsville Middle School, which I think it'll be fun because it's going to, when I was reading through the grant application, the flower garden is not for horticulture, it's actually for our language arts, but the students are going to lead the project. They're going to research what kind of flowers and what kind of things in a garden grow well in the middle school, and then they'll work through getting the soil, the material, the beds. So it's going to be, I think, a fun project. At least it'll be fun for us to see the results at the middle school, and it'll help beautify the grounds. So that'll be a nice thing. And as I said before, June 11th is their next meeting.
Thank you. Strongsville PTA Council.
There have been a lot of meetings in a short amount of time, so I don't think I've reported this yet, but their last meeting of the year was actually at the end of April instead of the beginning of May. So it was just a celebration of the year. We met at the new pavilion structure in Town Center, enjoyed some food together, and celebrated 2 award winners. They are Mrs. Orlowski in the high school office and Mrs. Faden Holes, who is Whitney Elementary's music teacher. So we celebrated them. And then I just want to give a general shout out and thank you to the PTA. This time of year is crazy, as everyone knows, for the school community. And I can't tell you how many events I've been to that the PTA is supporting in the last couple of weeks, between after prom, field day, 8th grade promotion, the list goes on, collecting band uniforms, and you got, there's just so many things that the PTA does, and a lot of those volunteers also overlap with other organizations and groups that are supporting our students. So a shout out to all those leaders who are showing up day after day after day after day right now to make this memorable time of year for all of our students. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Southwest General Hospital. They met when we had our last meeting.
And I did notice we got an email with the minutes from the last meeting, so I can't wait to read it and report at our next board meeting.
At the end of June.
At the end of June.
We're all waiting. All right, moving on.
Must-see TV.
Moving on to committee reports. Finance Committee.
No report. We haven't had a meeting, I think.
I was waiting for
I'm sorry.
Rich to jump in there. Says meeting date. Yep. I think everybody, we're all waiting to have our next meetings scheduled under committee reports. And that brings us to the adoption of the consent calendar. Action by the Board of Education, adoption of consent calendar. At this point of the agenda means that all items appearing in this agenda denoted as type-action consent, which items constitute the consent calendar, are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board or the superintendent requests that such items be removed from the consent calendar and voted upon separately. Do we have anything that needs to be removed? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
George, could you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mr. Helms? Yes. Mr. Miko?
Yes.
We do have several board policies that are on their second reading. If you have any questions about that, please reach out to Mrs. Bissell or Mr. Wall. Superintendent's timely information. I see we haven't changed the name yet.
We haven't, we're still, I know, I was asked about that recently, we're still working on it, but didn't we say, Dan, at the start of the year?
Still brainstorming.
We're still brainstorming, we haven't lost sight of it, but, just want to highlight a few things, starting with Muraski kindergarten classrooms. You know, one of my favorite things to do this time of year, I have to do it without my partner, though, is go around to all the buildings and say goodbye to all the teachers. And so I was at the high school today, and one of the staff members just came up to me and said, I just want to share how phenomenal your kindergarten teachers are at Muraski specifically. Her grandson actually attends there and was telling me just how much progress he has made in 1 year, and he can read and he can tell time, and it's just phenomenal as a kindergarten student can do that. And these ladies do a phenomenal job, so I'm excited to highlight them tonight. They are transforming painted lady caterpillars that become beautiful butterflies. And before they release their butterflies, they use a patio umbrella, a net, and a little innovation to give students the opportunity to discover details they may not see otherwise. They also had a chance to hold flowers and watch the butterflies proboscis, I'm not sure, a straw-like tongue, I'll say that, unfold as they sip nectar. So I just, again, want to thank Mrs. Northeim and Ms. Gall for their work. They are just, you know, innovators and continually trying to bring the kindergarten experience, bring our youngest students, one of our youngest students, into the real world and making sure they're curious, keep their curiosity going and love of learning going. It's just so exciting what they do. Next, I think we highlighted this a little bit through social media, but our middle school students provided a spring cleanup. They partnered with the Strongsville Historical Society. Just kudos to Mr. Rodak and to Mr. Zahar because they partner in this work. And I think Mrs. Leach may be also involved in this as well with the Career Connections class. But they helped clean the grounds and spread over 15 yards of mulch. I don't know about you, but I do not love mulch day in my house. And so 15 yards is quite a bit, and they really spent time beautifying the Strongsville Historical Society. And again, just exhibiting our Model Mustang competencies where they had to collaborate and cooperate and problem solve and persevere, just to make sure they got it done in a certain time frame, work together, and build some landscaping hard skills. And again, according to the pictures and according to what we heard, did it all with smiles and laughter. So again, they also documented it along with Mr. Zahar's class, the communication and broadcasting class, where they were able to document it with pictures and videos and put their skills to work. And I just love the partnership with our community business again, and you know, lunch was donated by Jersey Mike's. Middle school parents helped out, the Historical Society, and just again, thank you to all involved in this great, great project for our community. And then finally, as Mr. Wall talked about earlier, commencement, we held that last week. And again, you know, for me as well, it's just such a phenomenal night. I was just saying to Mr. Miko, I think this was the best weather we've had. It wasn't too hot. You know, we didn't have any girls fall down the steps. And so those are things we're worried about. But it was just such a great evening for our graduates and their parents. And, you know, just a great time to see them walk across that stage. And I think, Mr. Wall, you said it really well, you know, just what embarks, you know, the next steps for them and their life moving forward. Such an exciting time for our seniors. So just congratulations again to the class of 2026, and we are just so proud of you and know you're going to be doing great things. And then finally, in the last, thanks, George. Just again, congratulations as we wind down. Tomorrow is our last official day of school. As we wind down, just want to say congratulations to all of our students. A big thank you to the partnership that we have with our families and all the work that our staff has done this year. Again, just going around to the buildings, you can tell our teachers are good. They're ready for this break, and but it is exciting. You're going around, and students are still engaged in work. They're on the floor, they're finishing projects and doing those things, and yet still excited about summer. So just wish everybody a fun, a very safe, and enjoyable summer break as we go there. And as we like to do, bring it around to say first days of school for 26-27. We have Tuesday, August 18th will be our 1st through 9th grades plus kindergarten orientation. And Wednesday, August 19th, we'll welcome back our 10th through 12th grades and preschool and kindergarten students. So I guess we can mark our calendars for that. And then I have been getting some questions on open house dates. We're going to publish those in our next parent update, so everybody can mark those down as well. And that is all I got.
Thank you. Board of Education, other miscellaneous. Does anyone have any miscellaneous? I just want to announce real quick, the Historical Society is taking over the Chalk Walk for the Arts of Strongsville. So Saturday, June 13th is the 13th annual Chalk Walk at the Historical Society. I have been a very busy bee trying to get some prizes gathered up for our young artists and judges, so might be looking at my fellow board members. But yeah, mark your calendars from 10 to 12 on Saturday, June 13th, the Chalk Walk. Any other miscellaneous? Hearing none. Meeting notifications. A regular Board of Education meeting work session will be held Thursday, June 11th, 2026 at 6:30 PM in the meeting room of the admin building here on Cook Road Avenue. And we have a regular Board of Education meeting to be held Tuesday, June 30th, 2026, 6:30 PM here in the meeting room of the admin building on Cook Avenue. Next up, we do have need to return to executive session to consider the appointment of a public official and to consider the investigation or complaints against a public employee. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Bissell, second by Mr. Wall. George, you take the roll.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
We will enter into executive session at approximately 10 PM. We do not see need to return to public session, so I just want to wish everybody a good night and a happy summer.